Shut up! Shut your hole!
Ew.
It's so loud.
As I was saying, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Game Over Greggy show. I'm one of your hosts, Greg Miller, alongside the producer/seducer, Nick Scarpino.
He beats me.
No! You quiet down and back in your cage after this.
Sorry.
Have Joey come by, put the metal cup along the bars.
Damn.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, for a second I thought you remember like sometimes
like
during Palm Sunday the priest will like shake the thing. Remember that thing?
The incense.
Yeah, the incense, and everyone would be like, "I love God," but they'd all be coughing because you can't actually breathe smoke.
Do you like the smell of the incense now?
No.
Really?
I don't like the smell of incense. Period, though.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just don't like incense that much.
I remember not incense, wasn't it? Like
it's not like
it was the burnt palm from the year prior.
Right. But there was this is John Carle, everybody, YouTube superstar from Whiskey and Waffles.
You might know him as the breakout star of Love and Sex Stuff season 2.
I was.
Yeah. Were you breakout? That one did really well.
We didn't get screamed at like the one from the week prior. So
that's a win. That's a win. Yeah. Sure. Okay. Yeah. And over there, the pure one at Tim Gettys. So let's get it clear real quick.
Yes.
There's the incense in the decanter, maybe is that what they call it? I forget. The palms from the year before are what get burned and then put in the ashes on your head on Ash Wednesday.
The incense is just straight up. They went to the corner store.
No, but it's not
patchouli oil incense.
Kevin, am I calling it the wrong thing? Is incense right? You know what I'm talking about?
Are you thinking about amber? Don't they burn the amber, and that's what makes that smell that's familiar to when you think Catholic Church?
Yeah, when I think of like a funeral and they're doing that thing.
That's the amber in that
amber.
Thing. Isn't
you
it?
got Ash
I don't
Wednesday.
know.
That's amber.
Ash Wednesday, Fat Tuesday, my favorite fucking one.
YouTube channel.
Yeah, exactly.
Really
the Catholic Church's content roll out of of course.
The most famous of all Catholic holidays.
When we used to, live in the old neighborhood and work out of the old neighborhood, the guy down on the corner used to sometimes burn that incense for no reason at all, and it smelled great. I was like, oh, somebody died. It was great.
The guy,
good memories
in my that runs my corner store, my local liquor store.
Your delicatessen.
Yeah, it's not really a delicatessen, but
your liquor store.
He's a liquor store. He will burn the incense there because the place smells like a dead rat.
Oh,
so that's
is he mourning the rat?
He might be.
That is a solid question.
That's probably what he's up to. You know what I mean? Yeah.
What do you think the rat's name was? Do you
Vicky.
think the rat had one of those
the
little rat
rat's name
tails
was
like from
Vicky.
episode 1?
They just called him Anakin.
That was a reference for the people watching live on Patreon, because that's an option you can do, right, Greg?
If you didn't know, this is the Game Over Greggy show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic discussion for your amusement. If you like that, you can head over to patreon.com/kindafunny and get each and every episode early, along with just helping us run the business. Tim, how early can they get the episodes?
You could be watching right now.
That's
live.
right. And there's little pre-shows beforehand where Tim mentions rat tails.
And are they worth $1?
Yeah, I'm going to go as far as, they are. Yeah, we were giving Kevin a bunch of shit. What were we giving Kevin shit about today? I don't know. I wasn't one of them. I wasn't one of the people giving time.
I wasn't giving him shit.
Who is on the fuck you list today, Kevin? Who are you mad at today?
Give me a second. I'm thinking if Tim's on there or not.
Okay.
But why would I be?
Well, you're Tim.
It might not have anything to do with the shirt.
Thank
Tim.
you. Great point.
You also didn't
Am I
defend
on the
his
fuck
shirt.
you list?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
You've been making fun of this shirt.
I'm not making fun of the shirt.
Nick, before I met you, I didn't have
You can't even say it. You're saying it with such a shit-eating grin that you know you're fucking with you're trying to pull it over on yourself.
No, I simply
Kevin, show this shirt to the kids at home. There it is, Death Angel.
What is this? Also, I woke up at 6:30 this morning to take Paula's car to the mechanic.
Yeah.
So maybe I didn't put that much effort into what I was wearing.
We're not offended.
You know what I mean?
All I'm saying is this.
I'm offended.
I just said, Kevin, what's going on with that shirt?
Hold on, real quick.
Time
Time
Kevin bringing that to the table. Do you understand me?
Tim, how did he say that, though?
All right. You know, we're actually going to take this a step back because we were doing our
So
weekly,
Kevin's proof.
We're doing our weekly meeting. And during the weekly meeting, at some point, Andy looks over to Kevin, and he's like, what's up with your shirt? And him, Joey, and Kevin have a dialogue about the shirt. Meanwhile, Nick is not listening at all.
I was listening.
Were you?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you then later bringing up, Kevin, what's going on with your shirt?
No, but what you missed
That
was
was
before he said that, he just looks over.
Yeah.
Well,
that.
it dawned on me that Kevin, our good friend Kevin Coelho, who has never once, in that I can remember, and I'll admit I don't pay attention a lot, but I think I would remember if Kevin was like, "Dude, I'm massively into Death Angel." Like, this is a band I am really. Hey Nick, like Queen. If he was wearing a Queen shirt, I'd be like, "That makes sense." You are. We talk about greatest rock band of all time. You argue Queen. That's a very defensible position.
No.
But
Greatest
Death
band
Angel.
of all time.
Like if it was a Megadeth shirt, I'd be like, cool, because Megadeth, that's like retro and cool, and that's like from the 80s. Megadeth,
I used to have
whatever.
a Megadeth shirt.
And did it ever come up in conversation when you wore it? No.
Does it make sense?
I had the coolest Metallica shirt too.
Metallica, again, another
missed
band,
that
like
shirt.
not my personal favorite, but if you wore a Metallica shirt, I'd be like, cool, Metallica.
I got all these
one of the
shirts
highest
at
grossing selling bands of all time. That makes sense. You support them. Death Angel is a shirt that he's had for the last 10 years.
Local metal band from the Bay Area.
Again, I'm not making fun of the shirt. I just put it out there, and I gave Kevin the rope. And now Kevin is just showing his insecurity when it comes to his love of Death Angel. He's just putting it out there.
Sing me a few bars of a Death Angel song.
Please.
Allow me to sing your Andy's song.
We worship Satan because he's cool. Death Angel, Death Angel. Oh, fuck you, and your mom, Death Angel.
I hate them.
If you don't got any bucks to toss our way, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny where we put it up topic by topic, day by day, until it goes up as one big video in MP3 the following Friday. Nick Scarpino, kick us off.
We're going to talk about Death Angel for the next 30 minutes, ladies and gentlemen. Strap in your fucking seatbelts. No, actually, I want to talk about the iPhone. I just finally, after years of toiling away with that fucking iPhone 5S and Joey calling my phone small and everyone on the internet calling
Tiny
my phone small.
Scarpino.
I finally upgraded to the iPhone X. Prior to this,
okay.
I'm not going to clap for Nick. Taking 5 years to upgrade his phone.
but aren't you proud of me that I pre-ordered it?
All
and
right,
got
now-
shipped to my
I'm proud
house?
of you.
Now my first complaint would be hit the button again.
Hold on.
Show it to the screen. Show it to the screen.
He's making sure nothing's showing that shouldn't
He's
be.
got nothing of importance.
Why is your background still the default background?
It's not. I picked this background because it's a live background and it morphs over time.
It's alive. If you touch it, it does the little bloop, 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 bloop.
Who the hell? No, yeah, it didn't do anything.
Well,
It did literally nothing. They called up your notifications.
You have to hold.
Look at me.
Push on
It's
it.
unlocked. God, it's like watching a grandfather try to ride a bike.
Yeah, to be fair, I don't know what that does, but it's cool and it's colorful, and it's the only background that's like HD. So I went online to look at more HD style backgrounds, and the ones I could find were like super compressed. They just don't look that good on the phone. The problem is the screen is so good on this that you want something that's really has a high fidelity and a high bit rate. And so that was, they come default. I picked those. I had a couple other ones on there that were like retro and cool, but they were like dim, and I'm like, you know what, this is a brand new thing. I want it to be happy. I want to see the color in it.
Sure.
But my question for you guys is, prior to ordering and and interacting with this, I was like, I wonder, I'm looking at all the quote unquote technical innovations, the new iPhone X, and I'm like, they don't seem to be that big anymore. So like, is Apple just innovating for the sake of innovating because they have to sell a new product every year? Or in your guys' opinion now, having had the
you
phone
have
for a
one, John?
while, is
I
this a
don't,
big
no.
leap forward?
What phone are you on right now?
7S.
You know, 7S. Okay, and then we are all now on 10s.
10s. Yeah.
Cool.
Well, fuck me, I guess.
Exactly.
What's your plan? Are you planning on getting one?
Shut up, Kevin. Yeah, after the holiday, I'm gonna upgrade to a 10.
To a 10.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we're all on the same page here. That's just
I think so.
how we fuck things.
But because also my wife,
Because
by the way,
Andy is an Android person.
Andy's Android.
Kevin is an Android person.
Fuck you guys.
There's no boo.
I hear a lot of Death
that's-
Angel
but that's-
fans are Android people.
We love Android. Fuck your iPhone. Gingerbread is the best system ever. Fuck iOS. Fuck iOS.
hate you
But so this is the question, right? Like my wife's I think on a 6. And she's thinking about upgrading to the 8. And I'm like, don't do that. Just get the fucking 10 when it's available. She's like, I don't know if I need it. Yada, yada, yada. So like from her perspective, and I think from my original perspective, like this is not as exciting as a jump forward for when you're buying the phone. Flash forward, I get the phone, I'm interacting with it, and I pick up my iPad and I start swiping up. And then I'm like, oh, right, quaint. The home button. Who needs one of those anymore, right? So I'm actually like, there's actually a lot of cool shit in this phone that I did not think, but this doesn't look good on paper to me. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Tim?
I mean, what do you mean doesn't look good on paper?
Well, so-
I feel like the problem is people get ahead of themselves when it comes to tech. I really feel like there's two camps of people, and I'm not even going to do the Android iOS thing. I'm just going to there's people that give a fuck about this type of tech, and there's people that don't give a fuck. We're now at a point that both of those groups use smartphones. Smartphones are just they're just normal phones now, and phones are something that everybody has. Everybody being relative to generalizing, whatever. Don't get on me in the comments about that. But what it comes down to is there's the people like me that read rumor websites every day about what Android's doing and what Apple's doing and what the rumors are of next phone and all this stuff. And then there's the people that are just like, oh, the new thing comes out. And they're taught, even those people, that every year Apple's going to come out and have a conference and make some announcements. And ever since Steve Jobs died, it's been kind of just like this rush of, hey, what way is Apple going to fuck this up? And they've changed. I don't think they've changed much at all. Like in the sense of there's not these grand innovative things. If Steve Jobs was still here, I don't think that we'd be getting these grand innovative things on the schedule that we were when he was alive. And I think that we've seen that just they need to put it out because that's what people expect. And a lot of them are changes just for changes. You talk about innovation. I don't think there's much innovative about the iPhone 10. It's just people like something new to do. Is the lack of a home button like better or worse? I don't know. It's different and I'm used to it now, so I'm fine with it. I absolutely love my phone. This iPhone 10 has been a game changer for me where I'm like, for the first time in a year, I'm like excited to use my phone.
Sure.
Just to use it. And like, that's stupid, but I'm one of those
Just to
type of
fuck
people.
around on it?
Yeah, I care about this shit. And it's like, I couldn't understand trying to buy a 8 instead of a 10. But that's also because I've had a 6 Plus for a couple years
You've already
now.
kind of had the 8.
But having said that, I waited specifically for this. I wanted a form factor change because I'm the type of person that would upgrade every year if that was a option that made sense financially.
Right.
It never did up until the point I had my 6 Plus. And after that, I was like, I'm not going to upgrade to the S. I'm not going to upgrade when they announced the 7. And now that the 8 and 10, I'm like, okay, I'm definitely going to the 10. And now that I'm on the Apple upgrade plan, I'm going to upgrade every year.
You're definitely going to upgrade every year.
Because it's just like it's the little changes that they make that it's like, it just makes it a better quality of life experience. Like at this point, the smartphone's the smartphone. They're not going to reinvent the smartphone. You know, the tablets are tablets. It's like these are, and the fucking watch, all the shit, it's here. We're going to get these little changes here and there. There's so much about this phone that I'm like, wow, this is so much better than the other ones. Then there's things that I'm like, this kind of sucks. The control center being from the top right, that's inconvenient. That's a function that we've been taught to use, swipe up from the bottom, and that's very accessible to get to your camera and to get to your alarm and flashlight, things that you use daily, randomly. So it's like, it is change for change's sake, I would argue.
Well, isn't it because you have to swipe up to get into it and do all the other stuff? Now you're swiping up. I mean, like, that's my thing, right? Of like, you got used to not having a home button. Isn't it just a matter of getting used to having the crap up in the top right corner?
No, because in my opinion, that's not designed well. Like, it's not just, oh, you get used to it. Like, I'm used to it already. It doesn't make it good. I guarantee they fix that in one of the iOS updates.
Yeah, that's the thing. There's a couple gripes I have, and one of them is that diagonal swipe you have to do, which is weird and works most of the time when I'm paying attention to it, but it's not as carefree as it was before.
What is the diagonal swipe?
Prior to to this iteration of the phone, you could swipe upward and you would just get a little control center that had all of your, like, you know, volume, brightness, calculator, anything like any of the core stuff that you use on a day-to-day basis would be right here, right? It would also show you if you swiped over like whatever you were listening to, so you could just hit play on a podcast if you want to do that. Now, the good news is in the new iOS, all that stuff's there, and since you have more screen, it takes up the whole thing, and you can, like, I guess you could have always customized these before, but I just realized you could add more stuff to it, which is cool. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. But now you have to go from the top right-hand corner, which means you can't do it with one hand.
Yeah, you can.
You can.
I can't.
Boom, right there.
Well, I mean, it's a stretch.
It's a stretch.
It's totally inconvenient.
You guys have mountain man hands.
Hey, I've been using the what? I was on a
6'5".
7 Plus before, so yeah, this is way more navigatable than that thing was, where I was always like trying to get over to it.
But I also don't like that there's. I just don't like that there are swipes that have a degree of error now, right? Before, swipe right, swipe left, you can't fuck that up, right? Up, down, that's pretty easy.
Well, it's because
right?
the Force Touch stuff. So there's so much more functionality when it comes to the operating system and all the different things you can do. Where it's like, if you just tap it, this happens. If you hold it, this happens. If you push in, the new menu comes up where you get to choose all the things. And the two biggest complaints I have with this phone are having to swipe down from the right corner for the command center, and when you're trying to close the
closing apps is terrible.
Whereas before it was a simple thing of you double tap and then you can just toss them away, toss them away, toss them away. Now it's this weird thing where you need to swipe up while pushing down, and then they come up. Then you need to hold down on the apps, and then you can start tossing them away. And it's just like one extra step. Getting rid of the buttons and turning it into the thing, cool, fine. I've already gotten used to that. But having to hold down before you can toss them, it's like it is really invasive to good design, I think, when it comes to functionality of a phone.
Well, that was like the recent update with taking screenshots when they did the last iOS update, where it would make the screenshot appear in the bottom and you could get into it. I've never had such trouble swiping to the left.
Get the fuck out of my face.
Those things would not move or not catch properly as I was swiping on them. It's, you know, it's all these little tiny iterations that I think you're right. They're going to see the ones that aren't working, and those will be the ones that will be updated in Switch. But, you know, I think that's why I did it every 2 years, because they weren't big enough differences for me. And I think now at this point, I'm in the iPhone family, and basically I'm only upgrading because once a phone is 2 years old, the hardware can't support the software that's up to it anymore. So
yeah, that
I
was
just
where
want
I
a
was
good
at.
working phone.
The 5S,
I wasn't at that though. Even with the 6 Plus,
You're
like
still-
my brother's. It's not my brother using it. My battery still ran forever.
Well, that had the best. By the way, that's one of my other gripes on here is that my battery is nothing to phone home about.
Really?
I got to last night, it was at 30%, and I was like, huh,
At the
this
end
is
of the
weird.
night?
And around like 8:30. Granted, I'm in that honeymoon phase with the phone where I'm fucking constantly on it because I just like looking at the screen.
You're playing Animal Crossing all the time too.
But I do think I need to go
Without
in and
energy
adjust some of the
save.
settings. Like for instance, I still have the you lift it up and it turns on setting, and I think I should probably take
we're
that
also
off.
using a live video background.
That's probably it too.
Burn.
What's your background?
My wife, because I'm in love with her. I'm like, you're in
What is
love with
that
colors and
fucking
moving
low
stuff.
res
Tim, what's
fucking
your background?
Polaroid picture of your wife
On your lock
Jesus,
screen.
get with it, bro.
it's
You're not
this-
even using the whole screen.
Fancy, cool looking, just colory thing.
You want to show me?
Oh, sure.
We're gonna show it on Sky King. What are we
No,
doing?
just show
Oh, Tim,
your
you always
camera.
have the custom that constant background.
What?
That's
Yeah,
nice.
well,
Just show. Just
oh,
show the camera.
sorry. I thought you were sky camming it. I don't know. Just like it's cool, pretty colors and shit. But then, yeah, my background's my favorite thing, which is again more pretty colors. But this doesn't show well
It doesn't
on the screen.
work well on that
but
screen.
I've had the same background since my iPhone 5, and I fucking love it. It's pretty.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a few things over there I don't like.
You're all crazy. I wasn't excited for this one at all. I wouldn't have got. Like I said, I had 7 Plus before, so I was last year. I guess I moved to that phone, right? Sure. And Jen didn't need a phone because she was then using. So I'm a 7 Plus, which means then with this, her phone's 3 years old. It's 3 generations back because I was every 2 years.
Yeah.
She was using that one, and that was also kinds of fucked up, and the GPS was broke, and it did gobble battery, and it was a pain in the butt. And so. Originally, I had said, "Oh yeah, well, when the new ones come around, I'll buy that, and I'll take the new one for photos for work and stuff like that, and for making vlogs and videos and shit like that. And then you can have the 7 Plus." And she was one who's like, when they got, I didn't even pay attention to them getting announced. I was like, "Oh, that's happening. That's cool." Blah, blah. And she was one like, I came home that day and like, "We're doing this, right?" I was like, "Oh, I guess so, yeah." And there was are we doing? Should I do an 8 or an X? And it was like, well, I'm clearly just gonna jump to the X. Like, I want the. Yeah. I love my iPhone. Every iPhone I've had has been great and awesome and amazing, and so. When it was, all right, cool, I'll just jump to this one. I jumped in not knowing anything about it, not really reading anything about it. I knew the camera was better. Okay, great. And got it. And you had explained to me the day of, like, you getting yours of like, okay, like, this is how big the screen is. Cause I still didn't have my head wrapped around that cause I hadn't paid attention to it. And so getting it and using it, I think it's awesome. It's great. Like, the dragging from the top right doesn't annoy me. Currently, my biggest annoyance that I haven't Googled yet, and I'm sure we're about to solve, is I used to use the whole, hey, click it on and then, move to the right to use the camera. Like, is it still the same? Why is there a camera button down here like that? What does this thing do? And like, what?
You hold it.
You hold it? Because I didn't know anything about this taptic touch thing until right now you're talking about it. Like,
Yeah.
so that's how do I?
Force Touch
yeah.
was on your 7 as well.
Didn't ever use it.
Yeah, so for
the
me,
the only time Force Touch
not
ever
an
came
option
into
of
play
using
was
it.
when I was like, hey, I want to delete or move an app, and it always did the opposite. I'm like, motherfucker, what do you want me to do?
Yeah, so I think you just hold it down, right?
Apparently, what? But can I still swipe right? Because I just did it actually.
Maybe.
Yeah, I must be able to. So there you go.
Yeah.
My problems are solved. My one problem with this phone
Oh,
solved.
look at that.
Don't worry about it,
You can do
everybody.
What's that way? The flashlight?
When that one you, oh my eyes, Nick, why?
I just blinded myself.
No, I think it's great, but I fall into the camp you're talking about of like, all right, cool, whatever. And I'll watch the announcement, or not even really watch the announcement, and then see what's happening next time around.
I just think it's funny. I've seen so many people argue online where it's like $1,000. I could buy this, and this for $1,000.
Sure.
It's like, okay, or you can have a supercomputer in your pocket that
Yeah.
you literally use more than anything else in your life.
And that was my biggest thing, I think, when I made the jump to either the last big one or the one before then. When I was like, fuck this, top of the line, as many GBs as possible. And people are like, oh my God, the money. And I'm like, the iPhone and its dominance has, for the most part, by and large, eliminated a computer, right? Where it's,
For everyday things, sure.
Yeah.
Email, phones, and
not for editing video and stuff like that.
I could do most of my job
Yeah.
from my cell phone.
I mean, you could do Word documents, Excel spreadsheets,
Yeah.
things like that. if you
And
could
I
drive
do,
if you want.
especially for this work, in terms of
Yeah.
answering, tweets or being on email, or once in a while playing a game like Animal Crossing. Or I want all that. I want to be able to make videos and have crazy photos and not worrying about deleting and managing my space and doing any of that crap. Like, for me, it is every year. It's $1,000 or whatever, or not every year, but every 2 years or whatever. I'm putting $1,000 or whatever it is down, and it's.
Well, it's a new thing now. You won't have to do that anymore with the upgrade
I
programs.
still don't understand that at all either.
But I mean, are you on the upgrade
You're
program
basically
this
just
time?
paying
Yeah.
for the phone
Then-
monthly.
Last year
all
you
the
yelled at me
time.
that I did it wrong, so this year I just did it
you
right.
fucked up bad last year, but I mean, it was
bought the
new.
phone.
It
It's
was
like,
new
here's some
last
money.
year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. Is like there was a transition period, but from now on, where we're at least for this generation of phones, it's going to be you are just essentially signing on instead of for a 2-year contract constantly. It's every year a new phone comes out. Do you want to upgrade it? If you do, you're just adding one more year to your contract.
Yeah, it's essentially a lease.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But then
it's
you
like
have to pay off the phone, or do you just take it in and get the new one?
Well, it's you take it in, get the
Pay
new
the
one,
taxes.
and you pay taxes. That's
Okay.
it.
Yeah, I mean that's.
Which is like 100.
I think I signed up for that too, so it's fine. You'll have to push me to do it though, because you know I can't.
Well, I'll
Like,
go over there together.
I'm so fucking weird when it comes to. I mean, the next one will be whatever the XS. I can't call it that.
X plus?
10X,
We'll
10S.
fucking see. I don't
That's
know.
too hard to say.
Add in the 8 and the.
On a lighter note, I mean, again, another praise for the phone though. I do really like the form factor of it. One of my biggest reasons why I didn't want to upgrade was because the other one felt too small. Like the normal version of the 7s and the 8s felt too small. The Plus always felt way too big to fit in my pocket, and I like to put it in my back pocket. This size is fucking perfect.
it's bigger than the 7.
It's. But the 7 itself felt small to me. I was like, why would I upgrade to this? It's not that much
Got it.
bigger.
Yeah.
The 7 Plus always felt like it was this, like I was
Massive.
carrying around a fucking TV in my pocket.
Well, see, that's my thing. Is
This is perfect.
Next
Like,
year,
it's great for my back pocket.
next year when hopefully they add the plus size, I'm all in.
Do you
I'll go
think
back
they'll
to
do
that.
that though? Interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because of exactly what we're talking about.
I don't
There's
need it to
nothing
be
to
any-
innovate.
Yeah.
Let's just bigger, smaller.
So that's my
bigger,
question. Back to
smaller.
the heart of your matter or whatever.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they need to?
No.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm with you of like, all right.
This thing has 250 fucking gigs on it. You know what I mean? Like that's a lot. I'm
I
not
feel-
gonna fill that up anytime
It
soon.
reminds me of Madden or whatever, where it's just like, all right, you've gotten it to a point that it's pretty fucking amazing. So every year every 9 months, I don't imagine you're going to come out and show me that the game of football's changed. You pretty much perfected what a phone should be, a touch-enabled device should be. So it's going to be little bells and whistles and things that change and better this, better
changes for the sake of change. And I know that the comments are going to be riddled with like, oh, fucking no headphone jack and whatever. It's like, that affects me more than it would affect most people, I would imagine.
'Cause you love that analog jack.
I care about music. I love that stuff. But it's like, okay, it comes with the converter. If you need another one,
That's the thing, like,
$10.
I am-
My car uses USB anyways, and now this thing is more waterproof.
It is that was one of those things that I'm like, that's gonna bug me the most. And it bit me in the ass the very first day because the phone came not, it was like 40% charged or whatever. And of course, like an idiot, I'm like, I'm gonna fucking just walk around with it and not charge it. So I got to the end of the day and I'm like, I was in a hotel room with my wife because we were visiting her family for Thanksgiving. And I was like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and watch, something on Netflix. I think I was watching FX on Amazon.
Sure you were.
Which is this old Brian Dennehy movie.
Oh, I thought you meant the channel.
Classic. No, it's just a terrible 80s movie. But I was like, oh no, my phone battery's going to die. I'll just plug it in. And then I'm like, oh, I can't because I'm listening to this with headphones. Damn it. Because I need the 2-in-1 jack. So the next day I went to try to cobble that together at the Apple store. And I was just like, this is going to cost too much money. Went online, looked at it, and like this Belkin sells one for like $5.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty easy. And I understand. I guess this is what where my head's at, where I'm like, that is an annoyance. But I do like that they're at least trying to push the technical envelope with saying like, you don't need all these connectors. Everything's going wireless. Everything's just it's
that.
eventually going to be wireless.
At least to give me the option.
They are giving the option.
The wireless tech is not there. It's
But
good.
But that's
it's
the thing.
good enough
Until there's a
absolutely
device
good
that
enough.
has 70% of the market share to push that technology, and this is what I give Apple credit for, like it won't get there. But Apple saying, hey, this is the precedent, is the precedent. They set the precedent every time they do something like this. So it's very, very fascinating. Do I wish it still had a headphone jack? Yeah, 100%. But, I also
I don't
wish we
care.
weren't on phones because I'm an old man and I like old technology.
I remember the joke about Courage. And that's why they took it away. They took it away to make it more waterproof. Was that what the other
yeah,
thing
but
they
that's a
wanted?
sham, though.
It's not a sham.
Was
How
it?
is a sham?
But
when
because-
I was in Palm Springs
the-
and I
the
dropped
proof
my
of it.
iPhone 7 Plus into the water. Everyone panicked, and
Well,
I was like,
it's
I
a
think it's
sham
gonna be fine. I
because
got it out. It worked fine. Didn't have to put it in
Android-
rice. Didn't have to do anything.
Supposedly Android devices have been more waterproof for years without that. I
Sure,
don't
but
know. I'm not
nobody
on
knows because
Android.
nobody uses them.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Nobody-
Everyone's like, "Oh, that's bullshit reason because Android devices are
Yeah,
fairly
yeah.
waterproof." If you look at that ridiculous smear campaign that
No, but those
Samsung is running right
Yeah,
now,
right,
they
right,
have that
yeah,
in there,
yeah.
right? The guy's
But-
like, "Let's all jump into the fucking lake." Like, oh, rice, all that stuff. What were you saying, Kevin?
But the Android devices that are waterproof, all that I knew of until very recently, all had covers
A plug
for
thing that,
both
like, goes in.
both the power and the
Gotcha.
And
Yeah,
the
again,
thing-
I don't know Android stuff, but that was one of the criticisms that I saw rendered against that change.
Yeah, but that's fanboy stuff where people are just arguing for the sake of arguing on why one side's better than the other. And shit
Well,
like
it's the same with the argument of like that's Galaxy or Android devices have had OLED screens for a while, and they've had bezel-less screens for a while. Like they had the curved screen and things like that. Like those are true. Those are our technical innovations. Those were made that no one really gave a fuck about.
Big Kev Dog coming off the bench. What do you got for me, Death Angel #1 fan?
I hate you. You're a piece of shit. Why are you becoming the voice of
Android. I got something to say. The gingerbread man go.
Let him get it out, Kevin. Let him just get it out. Okay,
So,
he's done. Go for it.
I did want to say that I'm not a fan of Apple products. I like the construction out of them always, but I don't like the operating system. God damn, this phone has a beautiful, beautiful screen.
How much does that hurt you to say?
It hurts me so much.
So to bring you up to, Paula got one, right? That's how you're versed in it?
She got it yesterday.
Yeah.
But, I've been playing around at the store, like me and Tim.
We've been going to the store a lot because we've been having a lot of issues with.
Because you got like
Sprint.
9 phones delivered to you.
I had fucking 3 iPhone 10s. It's like, why?
I couldn't get
I
mine
hate
for
it.
3
I'm
weeks. It gets
dealing
they
with
keep
this fucking
shipping
hell
in
right
fucking
now.
iPhones.
But me and Kevin have been looking at a lot of phones, and then we look at like the Galaxy Note 8, I think it was,
Which
and
is
the Galaxy
also-
S8, which is funny because it is also almost bezel-less, just like this, OLED, but the size of the Plus.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
So it is much bigger than this. And it's like, well, okay, cool. That's what Apple's going to do next year. But it's like, but the screen, not as nice.
The screen's not as nice, which is crazy because it's made by Samsung, the OLEDs that you guys are using.
But it's not just that. It's the glass and it's all the
it's every
bullshit.
component in it. But so the Note 8 is also super long, bigger, looks nearly as nice, but the small difference that it has the lip on the bottom and on the top, and it's tiny. It's really small. But man, I really like the lipless.
Dude,
Like,
it's weird. It's weird to say.
Yeah.
Because I was like, the notch is going to bother me. You guys know how
Yeah.
anal retentive I am. I reparked my car like 5 fucking times because I had it as close to the curve as humanly possible. I'm like, the one thing that's going to bug the shit out of me is this notch. And then as I was looking on yours, I was like, oh, I don't even like this endless scroll thing. I just like, it gives me weird anxiety to have there not be a bottom of the screen. But again, 5 minutes of having the phone. This is awesome. Like I don't even see the notch anymore because you're right. You nailed it. You're like all this stuff up here is useless space anyway. It's just for your icons, for your battery.
It only
and wireless
affects
and
it
all
when
that
when you're watching video or looking at a picture full screen.
But even then.
But the aspect ratio is all off anyway. So
Well,
like,
that was my only other gripe, and I thank you for reminding. Was that I was watching like a lot of the apps haven't been updated, and again, these will be updated probably by
give it a
for all I
month.
know by the time this
But
thing
like,
this podcast
Gmail's
comes out.
not updated, and it's like that's really weird.
I think they did an update with the newest iOS
Not
update.
Gmail.
Really? They're totally different on my phone than it was on my old phone. It doesn't matter.
Because your
Amazon.
old phone's so old.
Yeah,
That's fair.
Gmail's not X optimized.
Oh, okay. Amazon Prime Video is not either, and it's weird. Like if you're watching a video, getting out of the video was like confusing as fuck for me.
That's your age, though.
No. It's just because I don't think when you're actually in full screen and you don't get out of full screen first and you swipe, it does like other shit. It's very weird. Like it. Anyway, that was a weirdness to me of not having the home button because I was like, I'm confused. I don't know what to do. And I kept swiping and kept doing the wrong thing. And then I would swipe up and it would do the wrong thing. And I was like, what the holy bitch? And I was like, I don't know how to get out of this. Eventually, I figured you have to minimize it first and then close the program.
I think
it's very weird.
I think the big thing to take away from it though is like they get so much data because everything that we're doing on our phones, they're getting as much information about what we're actually using
That's
it
terrifying.
for. It's horrifying.
They're gonna make our products better.
But it's you don't.
Kevin, let's watch Death Angel porn together.
What does that even mean?
Oh, you know what it means.
But you don't need
Kev Bear.
to truly innovate on something if the marketplace isn't dictating that you need to. Because they could just be like, all right, 90% of the use of this is people watching YouTube videos, Amazon video, Twitter, Instagram, and taking pictures. If they're doing that and they're optimizing for those 5 things, everything else is kind of secondary. So how do you make everyone who's using Twitch and YouTube get a better viewing experience? Give them a bigger screen. I mean, that's what you're saying. Like that's
Or a
what
better screen in this case,
Yeah,
which is the
exactly.
OLED, which by the way is Kevin's right, it's spot on. It's fucking awesome. Like watching video, you're like, it's so black. You know, it's like so dark.
One thing
Possibly black.
One thing that annoys me about modern, like the newest batch of phones,
Yeah.
and this is true for both Android and iPhone, is the fact that they don't seem to respect aspect ratio laws that like you know, have existed forever. And it's like, it's cool if you guys want to move on to something that's no longer 16:9 or was it whatever.
This is like fucking anamorphic.
Why isn't it doing full anamorphic though? Why aren't we getting?
Well,
so
that'll be.
that, like,
I mean, it's interesting that you say that though, right?
Yeah.
Because now with the push to everything being 4K, like it's not inconceivable that YouTube has like right now you can do that punt, like you can zoom in on stuff in YouTube. It's not inconceivable that at a 4K video, and granted you still have to frame it differently, but you could size it according to whatever you want, and it would just pick the frame and the screen. If you're talking about 4K, would be what are the? Do you know what the resolutions of the other these?
4K is still the same aspect ratio.
Yeah, it's still.
Oh
16:9.
no, but I mean you could film it like. A lot of the chips, like majority of chips that are used, and probably including this one, are 35mm chips, which are 4:3, and they just crop in on the frame. So what I'm saying is, if it's not inconceivable that video would evolve to a point where you're filming everything, that information's still there, but you're just choosing to show which frame it is. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. But I mean, I think what Kevin's saying is like it should be just the proper thing, that not work backwards, work with it. Where it's like if videos are 16:9, it should be 16:9.
What's the
Well,
new
they
one?
were up
21?
until this, right?
Yeah, well, they were for like 2 generations. Before that, it was all fucked up with.
It was like
Yeah, they had the
15:9,
weird, like, this
which
is
is
supposed to
really
be how that-
upsetting.
The 4 and below is that. But that's the thing too. I mean, we'll have to see what that is. That's probably never gonna, like 16:9 is a pretty deep standard right now because
Yeah.
of televisions.
Exactly.
Right?
And
as
that'll-
more
it'll
and more
never
people
change.
move away from televisions, like I rue the fucking day, and yes, I use that word, when they
Rue
start
it.
making
Good
televisions
old
that are in
rue.
this aspect ratio. Oh my god, and you know it's fucking coming.
Thank God Vine died.
God.
Step one is
I
stopping
hate
it.
though.
Yeah.
I told you guys a story. I saw my buddy go up at the punchline, and I was like, "Do you want me to film your performance?" And the guy's like, "No, I got that. If you could just take some pictures, that'd be great." Now this is back when I'm on the iPhone 5S. I'm like, "I don't think you understand. I don't have a great phone." He's
Sorry
like,
for potato
"Doesn't work."
quality.
They were. It was. I mean, it was just like a blur of his face. But I looked over at the guy that was filming the phone, and what did I see? Filming the set. Filming fucking vertically, and I'm like, "Bro."
But did the guy want that?
No, nobody knows. They don't know what they want. So you get it, and you go, "How come this is not a thing?" And then you got to do that stupid thing where you enhance the other side, like duplicate it and scale it and blur it. It's stupid.
But I mean, maybe he wanted it that way for like his stories and such.
No, he was filming it because when people do showcases, they want to see you do a showcase, and you generally send them a link, which they film. But the problem is if you embed that in a video, I don't know. Can you actually? I guess you can zoom in on it. Like you can double click it.
It's horrible, but yeah.
It's terrible.
So Nick, do you care? I mean, did they innovate? Do you need them to innovate?
I don't need them to innovate, but I also don't care what they're going to do next year. I'm going to do the same thing I've done for the last 3 generations of iPhone, where I go, I have this, I don't care.
But now you got the upgrade program.
I do have the upgrade program, but
That'll be the real test. If next year the phone comes around, Tim and I are gonna go. Oh, I'm gonna go upgrade. Might as well, or whatever. We go over there. You're gonna get in the car.
Maybe
You're gonna get in the car.
Maybe. I mean, I'm more incentivized to do it now because I had to sign up for the upgrade program because it made more sense financially of doing it paying monthly as opposed to dropping down $1,400 for the phone and the case and the Apple Care plan. But I don't know. I mean, it really does depend. I don't need a phone much bigger than this. If the only difference is it's slightly more powerful and it's bigger, I don't need that. So I'll probably wait until 2 years from now to upgrade. Plus, again, there's still a part of me that goes, it is a total waste of technology to be buying these things that are, these amazing devices and then just throwing them away a year later and getting the newest thing.
Now you're leasing them. Now you're leasing them. You're no longer buying them.
No, technically, I think you can I can pay this off and keep it, right?
Right. But like
Right.
that's what a lease is, where you're paying it off and you don't own it. Yeah.
But I mean, if I wanted to, I could choose to keep this phone. But that's my thing too. Is there's still a part of it that's like, oh man, have we really do we care so little about all this tech that's being made that we just love it for like a second and then just fuck it, we don't care about it anymore after a year.
It's utility.
Where does
It's
it
a weird
go?
argument.
Where
It
does
gets
it go?
recycled, I
Someone
assume.
else buys it.
No,
Yeah,
someone else buys it.
I resell mine or put them on Amazon or whatever.
They're just selling them landfill.
I
somewhere
keep
in
older
China.
ones as recorders actually for
really?
VO for stuff. Yeah,
Interesting.
Because the video can't do anything at this point. But sometimes if we're recording something, we'll actually have extra iPhones on the table just to pick up audio to keep it clean for us too.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for everybody. I don't know how many people are getting the new phone and throwing the old one away. I imagine
mean, I
The other
think
problem, we're not doing
all
that.
but I mean that's new. But I mean even before then, all the buyback programs and all the places you can. I mean GameStop takes them now, right?
Yeah.
Like there's a million ways.
Yeah, I
to-
mean, I gave mine, or they bought mine back for me, the 5S. I got $60 for it,
Yeah.
which is cool.
Or they end up in junk drawers for people.
$60.
Sure. Yeah, or Justine has them all. Yeah, she does. I don't know why.
She just has them all hanging in her
She just
room.
has them million.
She likes to lay on them.
Yeah.
Like Scrooge McDuck, just swimming.
Exactly. Right in
Half the
the
screens are cracked.
Yeah. No, I mean you bring up an interesting thing about the disposability of technology, but for me it's all about utility, and especially with this program now. I'm like, all right, it's 20% faster and 10% better battery, and the camera will obviously have more megapixels next time. I'm like, all right, I don't know how. I'll talk to Tim offline about how we actually go about trading them and buying them or whatever. I don't know if I'll say until midnight that night and be trying to click and get it. But I mean, eventually it's going to be, there's a whole bunch in stock. All right, let's go over there and do it.
Oh yeah, no, I'm definitely not doing midnight next time.
Yeah.
But I will do come January, February. I'll think about it, sure.
And that's
I like to be able to walk in and be like, can we do this right now? Cool, done.
And that's the thing with the 7 Plus that I got rid of is the fact that this is the first time we've gotten to.
You've been lamenting about all these
monsters.
phones that have been sent to you. You've been stressing about this for the last 3 weeks.
Well, that was a disaster. I don't know. That's not an iPhone problem. That's a fucking Sprint problem.
Right, but that's still a problem with ordering online and not being able to just get it done the day of in the store.
Sprint and Apple problem.
I mean, whatever way. This is a customer service problem. That's not a problem of getting the thing early.
No, I'm not talking about getting it early. I'm just saying I like this device. Yes, this was special. I'm willing to put the extra effort into it and wait and make sure it gets delivered. And by the way, like the UPS guy wasn't going to deliver. My wife had to go fucking chase him down because he like rang my thing once. I didn't answer. He's gone. So I almost didn't get the phone.
But D ran to the street
She
out
fucking
there.
took him down. She just fucking double like bah. You know? What
Yeah, I know what you mean.
phone.
Bah!
But all I'm saying is like prior to that, I've been like, I think I need a new phone. I walk in the Apple store. It's a pleasant experience. The guy's like, you want to back it up? Great, good, we're good. I'm out in like a half hour.
Yeah.
I like that. That's I like that experience.
See, that's why I like having no interaction with it. Send it to my house. Great. Plug it in, swap it out. Done. It's over.
Yeah.
Bada bing, bada boom. My topic.
Yo.
John Carle, my topic's about you.
Okay, that's horrifying.
Everybody knows you from Whiskey and Waffles, YouTube.
Yeah, huge audience.
It's a giant YouTube channel.
Giant channel.
They know you, of course, Studio 71.
Yes.
You helped Kind of Funny get off the ground. You've always been very good to us.
Yep.
Before all of that, though,
Yes.
you had a boss named Vince McMahon.
I did.
You worked at WWE.
I did.
What did you do at WWE?
I was a creative writer at WWE for 2.5 years.
Is that insane?
It is the most insane, in a positive sense, kind of job you can ever have.
Yeah.
From 23 to 26, it was literally the best job I could ever think to have in my life.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the big question I want to ask is, what is it like to be in the room with Vince McMahon? Because I can't even fathom it.
He's a very, very intense individual. There's no other way to describe Vince other than intense.
Yeah.
Because if you're saying the right things, it's the positive intensity and excitement.
Yeah.
And if you're saying the wrong things, you know you said the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then to dial it back, because I want to hear all the stories of Vince McMahon being nice or being mean to you. How do you get this job?
So that's one thing I've seen, because it is the team in that company that has the highest turnover rate. I think since the writing team started, when I left in 2009, our estimate was you could have filled an entire football team, offense, defense, and special teams with the amount of people that had gone through that. And it had only existed since the 90s of having a writing team.
Sure.
And everybody had different routes. So Brian, who is the lead writer of Raw, for example, had done television writing. Dave Lagana, who now works on TNA, he did TV writing. He has like credits on Friends, for example. Michael Hayes, who's from
Freebird? Michael Hayes.
Fabulous Freebird, was one of the famous like wrestlers from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
Myself and Chris DeJoseph, and Chris now works on Lucha Underground on their creative team. We came from the independent wrestling circuit. So we were doing stuff in Connecticut. He interned at the studio, moved from an intern to the writing team as an assistant. And then when he was ready to move from being an assistant to an associate writer, he knew me from the independent circuit. I was doing manager stuff, mostly cutting promos, almost exclusively as a heel.
Of course.
Yeah.
It's the most fun.
It's way more fun.
Yeah.
And for him to move up, no other assistants were surviving like past the 2 to 3 week point.
Great.
He's like, well, at least you understand how the locker room works in wrestling, so hopefully the guys aren't going to hate you.
Yeah.
And he got me my interview, and I interviewed on a Thursday. And when I was leaving my current job at the time, I was working as a copywriter in advertising. I was driving home the next day. On the highway, they called me and offered me the job, and they're like, "If you need a weekend to think about," I'm like, "No, I'm taking this job."
1,000%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100% took it.
What is right? Like, what does that even mean? Because the writing team, you're saying it didn't start until the 90s. So before there wasn't a writer, and now there is?
So the old days of wrestling, everybody was a booker. And that was when wrestling was divided up into territories. So Vince McMahon's father held New York. You had the Von Erichs had Texas. And there were all these different families that ran different organizations. When it started to get focused on TV, they needed more perspective than just the traditional, this is coming from the world of wrestling. And that's where, producers started becoming involved. That's where Kevin Dunn, who's been with WWE for years, started getting involved in creative. Jim Ross was involved in the creative in the 90s during the Attitude Era and everything like that. At the same time, Eric Bischoff was involved in the creative over at WCW. So they started building teams around them that it wasn't just what is going to be the result of the match, it's everything else on those shows. Because if you look at the early wrestling shows, there wasn't a lot happening behind the scenes or anything like that. It was mostly just what the commentators were bringing to the table.
And so to bring Tim into it, right, of like a booker would be like, all right, cool, we have this guy coming through town, we're going to book him to fight this guy's going to win by hook or crook this way, and that's that. And the storyline is played out in front of the live audience. If you're on television, the commentator saying something, but it wasn't thought out of like what the ramification on that would be on the next week's programming or something like that.
And even when it was, like, look at the Andy Kaufman, Jerry Lawler stuff that happened in Memphis. Almost all of that, with the exception of the pre-tapes that Andy would do, almost all of that was done in front of the live audience. Like, Andy was sending in tapes and everything like that, and those would get added onto it. And I think that was part of what built it to what's happening behind the scene, not just what is happening in front of the audience. And now, if you look at current WWE, Lucha Underground TV and everything like that, you're looking at like a 50-50 split, because it's not just the match, it's everything surrounding it, including people coming to the arena and people leaving the arena, or, you know, in between shows. That's all now a part of this storyline in Zeitgeist.
So when you get hired there, what year are we talking?
2006. I distinctly remember it was 3 days after the Great American Bash, which had the Punjabi prison match with the Great Khali, which at the time was considered one of the worst wrestling matches ever.
Yeah, I remember that.
It was
very distinctly.
So
where it was like, this is extremely racist. Everything about it.
I came
the storyline. Wow.
I came in.
What was it called again? The Punjabi what?
Punjabi prison. Because the Great Khali is a 7'2" Indian gentleman, and speaks Punjabi, and they decided that was better than a cage match. It was the hardest match to see what was going on in the ring, because there were 3 layers of bamboo cage, basically.
Why would they do that?
Didn't they just do that again?
They did.
That's
he interfered in the match. Yeah,
wrestling.
I love it.
Yep.
So when you come on, then what's your first thing you do? How does that? I mean, are you just thrown into it of like, all right, you got these 2 guys, make a story?
No, I mean, I came in as an assistant, which fell into kind of a more traditional Hollywood writers' room style assistant, where you're going in, you're getting coffee orders, you're taking notes, you're running copies of promos to people, and just getting comfortable backstage. Because if you go in there and you say, okay, cool, I want to pitch what's going to be on the next WrestleMania, nobody's taking you seriously yet. You haven't earned your stripes.
Gotcha.
And that was like a little bit of a learning curve for me, because I don't want to say I came in with an ego, but I think I came in a little stronger than I should have, where, because I did have, at that point, 7 years experience in independent wrestling, I think I just came in as like, oh, I know wrestling.
I'm a veteran.
And I knew independent wrestling. I did not know TV production, pay-per-view wrestling under the rules of that company. And so it took me a little bit to get past there. Once you get past that time frame, you had the opportunities to speak up in meetings and things like that. And as long as you were very thoughtful about what you said, you got more opportunities to speak. It wasn't just a matter of saying everything that came to mind, throwing it at the wall, and hoping some of it stuck. Like, at the beginning especially, you had to make sure that when you did get those opportunities, you were very careful about what you were saying.
Interesting.
And you always had to be able to back it up. That was the thing, is there's no such thing as the wrong answer. There's only a wrong answer if you just give one, and then they ask, why should we do this? And you can't explain why. That's your wrong answer. Yeah.
So when you're on the low man on the totem pole there, are they just shitting on you all? Are you thinking about quitting at any point? Or somebody super mean to you?
I never thought about quitting. That That was something that never crossed my mind.
Yeah.
You definitely get a little bit of a hard time.
Yeah, they haze you, I would assume.
Not even hazing. It was just like kind of like, you know, it's a very East Coast mentality is the best way I could put it, because growing up in New York area and stuff like that, everybody busts each other's balls constantly. I mean, it's your relationship with Kevin effectively.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know, right?
He now wants to be called the Death Angel #1 fan.
I hate you.
Or if you want to short that, just Death Angel #1.
DA
Why
number
are
one.
you turning on me? You weren't on the list.
Well, am I on the list now, or am I still?
Oh no, you're deep on that.
I'm
list.
deep on it. I can't turn back.
You might
Oh.
be topping that list.
All right.
So like,
Missed the
I think it was my third day was the first time I met Dusty Rhodes.
Oh wow.
And Dusty was on the SmackDown team at that point. Michael was on the Raw team, and there were a few other guys. And I went up to Dusty, and everything, especially at the beginning, is all about respect. So I went up, I look him in the eye, I say, "Hi, my name is John. It's great to meet you." He goes, "Nice to meet you. I give you 2 weeks."
Damn.
Yeah.
Shots fired.
Yep. And JBL, the one, JBL does get a reputation for being a ball breaker backstage.
Yeah,
he
yeah.
was never mean to me.
Who's JBL?
John Bradshaw Layfield. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Very Texas.
Got it.
You probably remember when he's part of the APA.
Oh,
Yes.
that John Babushu.
Exactly.
Like
And maybe
Labus.
the rope match from the Great American Bash where he won the title from Eddie Guerrero, and it was fucking bullshit.
Horrible moment. Cool Greg
Horrible
says off
moment.
camera.
It was the cowbell
Yeah.
rope match too. Yeah. But JBL took a picture of me when I met him backstage for the first time, and he assigned it to a contact in his phone, and goes, "When you get fired, I can finally delete this contact." And he picked somebody he really didn't like because he thought I was going to be gone in like a week or two.
Damn.
So when I hit my 1 year mark, he's like, "You've been here for a while now, haven't you?" I was like, "About a year." He goes, "I'm never going to get to delete this fucking picture."
damn. That's fucked up.
So yeah, you get a little bit of a hard time, but at the same time, you're coming into one of the most like machismo scenarios ever, and they need to make sure you could take it, because the steps that the guys, especially guys like JBL who were wrestling in the 80s and stuff like that, they were driving 10, 12 hours in between cities 5 nights a week. I mean, in their eyes, I was some kid who got hired a year after college, and I got to ride on a freaking private jet with Vince McMahon, and we were literally picked up from the jet in limos and brought to the arena. Like, did I deserve that kind of treatment compared to what they did? No, definitely not. But I had to at least show, if they were going to give me a hard time, that I could roll with the punches on it.
Well, I imagine also the schedule was just grueling, and it still probably is,
So
right?
the writings team schedule was always on a Sunday or a Saturday, depending on if there was a pay-per-view. You would fly out the night before. You would you'd show up for the production meeting, go through the entire live show. End of the show, you drive to the next city or fly, depending on the distance. And then you would do it again until Tuesday night was done, fly back Wednesday morning. So by comparison to the wrestlers, we had it easy though, because the wrestlers would start sometimes on a Thursday or a Friday and then go until Monday or Tuesday. So, and those guys are doing something so much more physically demanding and doing the travel on top of it. So
That's brutal.
yeah.
Was it hard for you coming in at that time at WWE? Because I feel like that was probably one of the lower points of WWE's history.
It was an interesting time to come in, because when I came in was the turn that happened to PG. And I mean, I distinctly remember 3 weeks before I started, they had a thing with Vince McMahon and the Spirit Squad, which was a group of male cheerleaders, and they literally dumped shit from the ceiling all over them. And then I get there 3 weeks later, and it's like, there's no more blood, there's no more bikini matches, there's no more of this, and this. And I'm like,
Jesus, cut me off at the knees.
I was like, that was everything I loved about the Attitude Era. And like, we're all that same age, that the Attitude Era for us was the coolest time in wrestling. Like, there are lots of great memories about, you know, the early WWF days with Hogan and Andre and everything like that. But wrestling became cool when it was Austin, DX, The Rock, the NWO, and everything like that.
Yeah.
And now that edge got pulled back from us. So creatively, it was challenging, but I think it made you just need to work harder. So
Yeah, because I remember there was the Attitude Era, and then when my brother started watching, it was a little bit. It was after that. It was like
the John Cena introduction
the
era.
rise of Cena.
Yeah.
So Cena wasn't disliked yet. Like he was still kind of like people liked him and were rooting for him. And like I remember when my brother first started watching, that year is when he won the U.S. title, right? And then as that one, we kind of saw his like rise up. That did happen pretty quickly. But then it was just like, all right, this is cool. And there was entertaining moments. And Guerrero got the title, and like there was all these like awesome payoffs. And then then he just became him and Triple H. And it was just like everything felt like it kind of just got the same. And like my brother even dropped off because it was just kind of like, oh, okay, who's gonna win the title next month? Triple H or John Cena for the 16th time?
It was definitely a lot of Cena title runs at that point. Batista was very heavy on SmackDown. Ray was very heavy on SmackDown, and it was a little bit of a toned back perspective. But looking at where they are now, they've maintained a lot of that, and they've just gotten better at being creative within those boundaries. But it was a big change for the audience, being like, oh, we're not gonna see this anymore. But now we need to let the more athletic wrestlers get their spots. Like, look at guys like Kofi Kingston when he was there, Evan Bourne. Like, those are the guys that kind of define the style that NXT is right now for WWE TV. Don't get me wrong. There were guys like AJ Styles who were doing that in Japan going back to when I started, refereeing at 17 years old. But when it finally got to WWE TV, that caught the attention of a lot of people, and it wasn't just your John Cena's and your guys who would be like Roman Reigns style guys. Like you had a wider breadth of athleticism happening in that ring.
So what do you consider then your first big break as a writer? Like you do the assistant thing for a while, you earn your stripes, you do all these things.
First big break as a writer was one day at TV, and it is probably one of the most forgettable backstage promos you will ever see. If somebody could find it, I would be shocked. It was with Brian Kendrick and Paul London, with Dave Taylor and William Regal, because it was something on SmackDown for a backstage shot. And Dusty Rhodes grabbed me and he's like, all right, we're going to work on this together. And at that point, I got to start working with Dusty backstage.
That's awesome.
That individual shot in the grand scheme of wrestling is the 12,000th most important backstage shot ever. Like it doesn't have any meaning to it.
Yeah.
But because I got to work with Dusty on that, I did well. He trusted me. I got to work with him where it was the Raw writing team was focusing on the story points of it, but the backstage shots for Ric Flair's retirement, where it was right after he finished with MVP at the Rumble and it was leading to Shawn and Rick at WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There were 4 people working on that.
Yeah.
It was Dusty, Shawn, Rick, and myself. And one of those 3 or 4 is not like the other.
Yeah.
So that's fucking amazing. When it comes to writing, are you just scenario writing,
Like I
or
should
you
tag
also
Cool Greg in for this because I'm like, this all sounds cool, but you could be making it up. I don't know any of it.
Are you
Cool Greg,
scenario?
tag in. You're on this.
Are you scenario writing, or is it like writing actual, like you're gonna say this and stuff? Like for example, Shawn Michaels, Ric Flair at WrestleMania, the retirement match. When Shawn looks at Rick and goes, "I'm sorry,"
points.
and fucking Sweet Chin Music's him. Holy shit! Like, did someone write that, or was that a Shawn Michaels thing?
So that one in particular, and I always have to be very careful about what I say, so I can't answer specific moments. With certain programs, depending on who you're working with, like working with a Rick or a Shawn or a Cena or Triple H, you're focusing on making sure that if you do a backstage shot, there's certain bullet points. Because somebody like Triple H, you could literally just be like, there's 9 minutes. These are the 3 points we need to hit to advance the story. And then certain people like Hunter might just be like, oh, okay, cool. And he'll be like, these are the things I'm going to say. This is when, they need to cut to a certain shot or something like that. There are other shots or other people that they don't have that same ingrained trust backstage yet. Or when you're introducing new characters where it's a verbatim script in certain cases. The one that I got the biggest compliment from Vince on personally was when we introduced Brian Kendrick as the Brian Kendrick, and he kind of looked more alternative. He had a leather jacket. It was a white leather jacket. It had cheetah print on it and stuff like that. It was some out there stuff. And I wrote a promo. Was me and Freddie Prinze Jr. working on it. And what was that for? That was
I just always you look at the camera occasionally when you have those moments of just I was wondering who you'd be working on. I didn't expect Freddie.
Yeah, and the two of us worked on that together. Freddie shot it, and it was based on the poem Tiger Tiger, which is just, you know, this really thoughtful, creepy thing. And we did that one, and then we did another one based on The Art of War. And Vince said the Art of War one was his favorite promo around the Scramble match, which was the first time we had ever done that as a title match and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So is this just, I mean, how do you deal with it? Because, I mean, you talk about, like, you get the phone call, yep, I'm going to be there.
Yep.
Does that wonder wear off at some point? I mean, it's got to become a job, let alone a job that you eventually leave. I mean, like...
The wonder never wore off.
Yeah.
I think if the wonder ever wore off for me, I would have left, as opposed to, like, I got let go in 2009 when the recession hit, and there was pretty heavy layoffs within the company. And at the end, when I got, you know, word that I was going to be getting let go, it wasn't anger because I got this amazing experience, but at the same time, it was like, I got a second to breathe, and it was like, where did the last 3 years of my life go?
Right.
And I can look at this tremendous body of work I got to be a part of, and that's like, okay, it went to a good spot, but you didn't breathe for that entire time frame.
Yeah, I can't imagine, right? Like, that's the thing of just, like, being on the road that much, having that much pressure, working all hours, being in a different city. People think we travel a lot. Like,
I mean, I literally had to sleep with a fax machine next to my bed.
Yeah.
Because there were times where something would come through at 3 a.m. and it would need to get sent to somebody. So I would literally have my phone go off, print it, throw it in the fax machine, and I would be like laying there like this, watching it, and then I would wait for the beep, and then I'd be back out cold again.
Wow.
So
yeah, I just can't imagine doing that. Yeah. Like, do you think if you hadn't gotten laid off, do you think you'd still be doing it?
I think I would.
Really?
Yeah. There's something about that world, and like, I mean,
it's infectious. Yeah.
Well, I mean, part of the reason why I ended up into the fold with you guys is because of wrestling.
100%.
Because, you know, I think I've mentioned it to you. I don't know if Cool Greg knows this. We met at Comic-Con because of an Activision party, and I had Mr. Kennedy with me. And we, you know, I knew Greg was a fan. We said hi. And then the next year, same Activision event, I was with the Hurricane. And we were just like, we were just like, yo, IGN has a really big party, right? And Greg was like, yeah, I'll get you in.
Yeah.
And I mean, that night we ended up hanging out with Batista and the RZA at the IGN party.
Yeah.
And from just having each other's number from that, I wrote a review of a really terrible PlayStation game for IGN.
Yep.
And then it led to just being at a VidCon where you were sitting in front of me, and I'm like, Greg, and you're like, John, what the fuck are you doing here?
Yeah, it was a weird twist because then you'd moved over at that point, right?
Yeah,
I
started working in the YouTube world at that point.
Yeah,
so.
It's weird how those connections happen. But yeah, I remember when I met Mr. Kennedy through you, or met him in person, because I already done the IGN video, I thought, or something. And I was like, oh, and I did this thing with you a while back where we played via Xbox Live for some random thing.
Yeah.
And then that next year, when it was like, holy shit, the Hurricane just walked in. He's talking to John Carle. Hold on. Okay, this could be all right. Because like it's Chris Jericho, and it was Hurricane is my number 2. You fucking a wrestler who's acting like a superhero,
so
having a secret identity, cutting cool shit back there. There's a hurricane coming through.
So perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
So I mean, I think I would still be there. It's kind of one of those things where you don't ever walk out unless there's something even more amazing. Like, honestly, the one thing that maybe could have gotten me to go was when, you know, The Rock started his YouTube channel and he needed creative people working on that. Yeah, if I got an offer from The Rock's team to work with him personally, that's the kind of level something would need to be to just walk away from that kind of job.
I give you so much credit. I couldn't, like... for you being so young at the time, I could see where it would make sense, right?
That was the perfect time to do it.
And that was when I started at IGN, and it was like, oh, I'll go to every event, I'll go everywhere. I got nothing tying me down, holding me back, right? But even when we just did the WWE IGN Esports Showdown thing where I co-hosted and Xavier's thing, you know, like we cut a promos and all that stuff. Afterwards, so many kids were like, "Oh, that's awesome! What are you gonna do when WWE comes calling?" I'm like, "Tell them no." Like I love professional wrestling and I love WWE. And like when we went, we went to SmackDown recently, or we went to Raw, and then you guys went to SmackDown afterwards. But going there and being back in that arena and having the same smells and same sensory, like it's all memories, right? From when when we'd go to the Rosemont Horizon every time WWE came through, and having such a respect for that world, I would never be able to do the whole thing of like, all right, we're on the road 5 days this week, doing all this stuff back to back to back to back, and coming out and going out and doing it again and flipping it over and over again. Let alone to be backstage and have like real responsibilities and all this crazy stuff.
Yeah, that the real responsibilities is the really weird part of all that, because I could look back and think of who were the people that I worked with, and seeing so many of them still there. Like I got to work with the Miz's first week. Where his first match was my first week on the road. I got to work with Natty Neidhart. I got to work with the Bella Twins. I got to work with Zack Ryder, and seeing those people still there in all pretty prominent positions, it's an awesome feeling. So
yeah, do you go back? Is it still homecoming to you of like running into all these people you know?
Yeah, it was funny because some of the YouTube stuff that I'm doing now, I went with Harley and Matthew Santoro to a Raw that was in LA. And they walked us backstage to give intros, and I'd say 70% of the backstage is still the same people that I knew from like the just WWE employee scenario. And I heard, "Hey, how are you?" And then, "John, what the fuck are you doing here?" Those were like the two phrases I heard. And one of the seamstresses who's been with the company for years, somebody must have tipped her off because she came from behind and just like whacked me in the back of the head, which is what she did when I was there, 8 years prior.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we talked about, your best moment. What was your worst moment? What did you screw up?
When you the one that decided that the Undertaker should lose?
No, I was gone before that Mania. So.
Good.
And I know there's lots of discussion within it about should he have lost just once in the last match? Should that have been the last match and stuff? I think he should have been the only one to ever be undefeated personally. That would have been awesome. That's my stance.
Man. You're supposed to lose in a retirement match. The Undertaker should never lose at WrestleMania. Yeah. That's the rules.
Yeah, I disagreed with that one. What was so there was a competition going on between Matt Hardy and MVP, where they were tag team partners, but they had the very uncomfortable, like, we're frenemies tag team
uneasy alliance.
And instead of having just, a breakup match with each other, they started going into competitions like playing basketball against each other, road races, et cetera, et cetera. So we went to Chicago for a pay-per-view, and we decided it was going to be an eating competition. We ordered, I think, 120 Chicago-style hot dogs or something like that.
Okay.
None of us realized that they weren't kosher. And as an MVP happens to have religious problems with that, which obviously we were going to respect and not force into an uncomfortable situation. We're like, oh, what could we switch this with? And you got to remember, being an East Coast kid, I didn't know pizza was any thicker than this.
Yeah.
So
I see where this is going.
We find a place that has personal Chicago-style deep dish pizzas without any of us even thinking deep dish.
Yeah.
It's a 3-minute segment. The final count was 1 to 0.75. And it was probably one of the worst segments on pay-per-view history. And there were two of us that we got, deservedly so, we got reamed out because it was just not good. Thank God the rest of the pay-per-view was really, really good, and there was like a title change or something that overshadowed it. But we're watching, and I'm just like, oh, I had my walkie-talkie on me. I'm like, I'm just waiting for it to be like, come to backstage to go get screamed at.
Yeah.
It was a terrible, terrible shot.
Was it ever normal being around Vince McMahon?
Yeah.
Okay.
I will say that was one of the things that, even if it does get me a little bit of heat for saying it, there was a great advantage you did have to being on the plane with him, because the more comfortable he was around you, the more familiar he was around you, you could talk about things other than just what business was. And,
Gotcha.
The first time he said my name, I was just like, whoa, like, okay.
Wow.
And, always an awesome guy. I mean, I have the utmost respect for that family. During the whole Chris Benoit thing that happened, that same day, I got a call. We were in Corpus Christi, Texas at the time. I got a call from my mother that my grandfather, who was dealing with dementia, had just had a heart attack. And it wasn't in critical condition or anything like that, but still totally shooken up. And then we literally got hit with the Benoit news like 7 or 8 minutes later. It was like rapid fire. they actually gave me a spot on the corporate jet, which was going back to Connecticut that night, so I could be with my family.
Oh, wow.
And it's like, I feel like if they didn't care about me as a person, like that never even would have been a consideration. So
Sure.
So like even to this day, like, you know, I see Stephanie when I go to Raw, and like I go up and like it's not even a question of we say hi by hugging each other kind of thing.
Right.
So
That's fucking crazy.
yeah.
Cool, Greg. You anything you want to know about backstage?
Yeah, I kind of want to know, like, so I've read books, right?
Yep.
And they said that there's been 10 minutes where they had to figure it out and tell everybody the new storyline with the switch before they're going live. So with you, like, what was the closest call? Like, has it been like minutes until we're live and we have to find the wrestlers and find all these different people and make sure everyone knows what's going on?
The great Carle is amazing at hiding, despite the fact that he's 7'2". And there were times where he like was, I guess, just not paying attention, and we were scrambling to get him to Gorilla to go out for the entrance, and we didn't find him. And there was like 30 seconds before he was going to get called, and he would just show up. And of course, if we didn't get him there in time, we would have been the ones who would have been like,
Sure.
and he would just always show up in time. There were a few times where somebody would get injured during a show, and that would just totally mess it up. When Joey Mercury got hit with a ladder to the face, they had it was a 4-team ladder match.
I remember this.
And they did a seesaw spot where one ladder was hanging on the edge. Jeff Hardy landed on the other side and it kicked it up. And Joey Mercury and Johnny Nitro both got hit in the face. Joey didn't get his hand up in time. And I've never seen so much blood in my entire life.
Jesus.
And like, you know, I was on the SmackDown team at that point and everything like that. And it was just like, okay, 1, let's make sure Joey's good. 2, what is going on with our tag team division? Like, that's like, as soon as we knew Joey was okay, that was the next thought.
Yeah. Are you all backstage in Gorilla? And then it's Gorilla position right behind, obviously, before you come out to the stage. Is everyone back there watching the entire time? Like, what during a show? What are you doing?
If there are live shots, well, at the time, and I don't know if it's changed with the current setup, but the writer who was associated to that segment would be with their live shot. If you were pre-taping something that was going to go later in the show, you'd be with your pre-tape. But I mean, for especially the younger writers and stuff like that, like you needed to know what was going on. So whether it was watching it with the other wrestlers backstage on like one of the screens or in catering, you were paying attention to what was going on the show. You could tell somebody wasn't going to make it if they were sitting there and talking to people, but not ever having an eye on the screen. Because, I mean, I would always, usually, because I wasn't doing the main event stuff at the time, especially early on, during the last 2 or 3 segments of the show, I would usually sneak out into the arena and just be standing there and watching the audience. And, you know,
what they pop for.
Yeah, see what they cared about.
Yeah. Cool, Greg. Anything else?
I think that's it.
Okay. Well, that's fascinating.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Congratulations.
Yeah.
For having survived it.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine.
Now, before we go to the next topic, I have one question for Nick.
Yeah.
Nick.
Yes.
Joey Mercury or Johnny Nitro?
Oh, fucking no question about that, sir. Johnny Nitro, hands down.
Yeah? Yeah. Okay.
And here's why. Joey Mercury, a lot of people don't know this, just a straight up ripoff of Freddie Mercury. And I don't like that, right? A lot of people also don't know they are, in fact, distant cousins of the New Jersey Mercurys, which is crazy to think.
I've
Right?
heard it
Especially
both
given
ways.
that Freddie Mercury not from this country, which is wild. It's just occurring to me now that maybe it's misinformation.
Who knows?
But you know me, fake news.
Yeah.
All right, I got a test for Nick then.
Yeah.
So I'm going to tell you something. You tell me if you think it's true or false.
Oh, I like this game.
So Johnny Nitro
False. Okay, go ahead. No, give it to me.
becomes John Morrison, talks about the Palace of Wisdom,
Okay.
now wrestles for Lucha Underground as Johnny Mundo.
This has to be true. This has to be so true. And this is the thing. This is it's the same thing with me in comics, where it's like it's so difficult to jump into this because there's such a long history, and you guys talk your own language. And I'm not disparaging you guys at all. I think it's fucking awesome that you guys all have this passion. But like going back to the early '80s and talking about these things, like when I think I was probably the only one born at this table during that time, but you guys have clearly gone back and like watched these old matches, and it's cool, but it's daunting.
It's mythology,
Yeah.
right?
No,
Even
it
if
is,
you,
yeah.
you know, like I remember being so fucking stoked for WrestleMania 2000 because if you remember, it was going to be 12 hours of programming
Yep.
running you through every moment. And it's like some of the shit was I'd only read about or
Yeah.
heard Mick Foley mention on his 3 fucking Faces
Well, because
of Foley
we didn't
VHS.
we didn't have anything other than VHS tapes at
Yeah,
that point.
yeah.
So it was like, oh, I get to rewatch WrestleMania 2 right now. That's amazing.
Yeah.
But that actually kind of segued right into
Yeah, I was
my,
going to say, this is
Yeah.
your topic.
Yeah, so my topic that I wanted to bring to the table was the importance of continuity within shared universes, and that considers like the Marvel movies, which are up to 20 movies with Infinity War
17.
coming with Infinity War.
you're right.
Yeah.
That's still,
There will
wouldn't
be
that
22.
19?
They said 22. We read a news story saying there will have been 22 of them by Avengers 4,
By Avengers 4.
which is Infinity War Part 2, right?
Fair.
And then so you have a limited continuity there. Then you have stuff like the comic books, which Greg and I have different feelings on with those, and how should they ever have reset points? Should they have new starting points? Things like that. And then like wrestling is one of the hardest ones because it's not just the WWE story. It's if you're a wrestling fan and you go to the hardest like degree of that, you could go back to the carnivals in the 1920s. And it's like, where do you start? Where do you end? How much does knowing that continuity of everything matter? So that's what I wanted to bring to the table today.
I think continuity is super important when it's good. When it's not good, who cares, right? Like, and I think a perfect example of obviously, I don't want to Marvel versus DC, whatever. But I think that what Marvel has been able to do with the last 20 some odd movies and now going into Infinity War is unbelievably cool storytelling. And I think that yes, continuity is amazing when utilized correctly because it totally builds off of itself and makes this really, really deep mythology like you guys are talking about that I think gives you a lot to glom onto. I think that DC is I think probably holding a little bit too closely to the continuity as is the Fox universe. The one thing I can't stand in Fox is that they're trying to they literally retcon the entire thing with Days of Future Past, and I'm like, I mean, I guess that people are super into X-Men, but did we really care? Like, can we just reboot that franchise already? Like, once Hugh Jackman's gone, what is the touchstone to the X-Men franchise? Like James McAvoy, granted, Fassbender. From your mouth to God's ears. But do we really care? Like, can we just do another X-Men now? Like, I would love to see them. I would love to see this 21st Century Fox sale go through and then have them just completely reboot the X-Men universe and just fuck all the continuity of that universe. Who cares? Right?
But see, even that speaks to what you're talking about, and I think is a great parallel to comic books in the way that good continuity matters, good storylines matter, right? It was awesome in Days of Future Past to reboot it and then have Logan walk into the mansion, and we saw all the Bryan Singer X-Men that we loved so much before X-Men 3, and we were like, yes, like, all right, cool. Did it reset it? Did it not? Like, you know what I mean? Like, whatever the fuck you want it to be. But they were there.
Marsden, you're like, oh, sorry, James Marsden.
That was awesome. That was so fucking cool.
That's
He
awesome.
grabs her head off,
Right.
right? No, of course not. But I mean, it was cool to see it happen.
Right.
It was, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was an awesome way to do it.
It was a fun moment. Sure.
I think that the X-Men movies, there's been half of them good, half of them bad,
Yeah.
depending on how you want to talk about
Sure.
it. But at the end of the day, I think that franchise did do something special for continuity because it does predate the Marvel movies.
Yep.
And I think that it did a good job of rebooting itself with First Class and then going into Days of Future Past. But to then make both of those continuities make sense together, it was the most comic book thing you could possibly do. Sure. And I think it did work and it did make sense. And I think that they, because of the success Marvel had, they fucked it up after that by going too hard into the continuity and where everything goes. And that's why we see something like Logan come. And I think Logan's a direct answer to that, where they're like, we understand this does fit in the continuity, but really it's its own thing.
Necessarily. And that's what I'm saying is I like continuity only so much as it serves the actual storytelling. I don't like it when the series becomes a slave to the continuity. And I'm mostly talking about bad continuity. And you brought up, my point earlier, which is, when it's good, who's to say what's good, what's bad, right? Like you are a prime example of you liked
Bad stuff.
Batman v
obviously.
Superman and Justice League. You're like, you enjoyed those movies, right? And so like the continuity they're setting up in there,
Thank you,
I
Jeff.
don't think that, like I would look at that universe and go, okay, I haven't necessarily think that they haven't knocked it out of the park with any of these. In fact, some could argue that they haven't even won a game, but I think I think they could. Oh, Wonder Woman's a good point. Yeah, it was a good movie. I think they could move forward and still build off that continuity and still make good products. But should they? I don't know. That's the question. Like, or clearly you've got a Batman that doesn't want to be Batman anymore. Can we use this as a point to just be like, let's just fucking let's start over again.
Well, the interesting thing for me with DC especially is I grew up a Marvel kid. But some of my favorite movies, like I love the Nolan Batman trilogy.
1989 Batman.
And
Right.
1989 was phenomenal. It got a little weird after that. But some of my favorite DC stories are the ones that are out of continuity. Like
Sure. Red Sun.
the Elseworlds, like Red Sun.
Kingdom Come.
Landis's New
American
Frontier,
Alien.
like all that kind of stuff, are actually some of my favorite ones. So it's not the characters that I have a problem with, because I wouldn't even give those a shot if I didn't have it. Like,
Sure.
But there is something special for me when I'm reading something about Spider-Man, and like in a current issue, he reveals who he is to J. Jonah Jameson, which is a huge thing, but it's only huge because it dates back
The
to the
history.
60s.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So it could go either way for me.
Well, and that's the whole point. But I think you can. Comic books are a weird thing to compare the movies to, right?
Absolutely.
Because movies, you get a shot every 2-3 years to get this movie out,
For
get it
only
right.
a few hours.
Exactly, 2 hours. Let's make it sing or let's not, and so you're fucked either way.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas like continuity for comic books, continuity for DC Comics in particular, right now. I was super excited for New 52 because first off, it was when DC, as crazy as this sounds, decided that they would go day and date digital, and I could get all my books day and date digital. And the fact that I like welcoming in new fans, like I had loved post Crisis on Infinite Earths to New 52, right?
And for context, what was the year time frame of that? When was Crisis?
Oh, Crisis was what, early 80s,
Yeah.
right? Mid.
So
I wasn't reading as I was
so
a
you
kid.
had a 20+ year time frame.
And you figure as a kid, I get involved with comics to a point that I get really like Death and Return of Superman really like boom locks me into the universe. And then it is reading back issues, it is reading encyclopedias, it is reading going forward to know this universe and know these people and understand why I personally think Kyle Rayner's a cooler Green Lantern than Hal Jordan, but why it meant so much when Hal Jordan fucking shows back up and it's full on parallax and all this shit's happening.
Yep.
And like why Final Night I still have a soft spot for, even though that was a stupid storyline. But it's all these adventures I have with all these characters that build in my head and make this a giant thing, to the point that New 52 comes around and I'm like, all right, cool, go ahead and reboot it. Let's see what you got. I don't care. Let's get new people in. They reboot it, and Superman isn't my Superman anymore, much like Man of Steel or the DC Cinematic Universe. And I'm like, okay, I'm not compelled to read these Superman books, which suck. Superboy, my favorite character. This Superboy is not Connor
That's
Kent.
not
I don't
yours,
want to
no.
deal with this at all. And so I'm picking, choosing, and reading different things in the universe. But then when they bring in Rebirth, or even before that, really, when they introduced that my Superman was still with Lois, they had a kid named Jonathan, or they were about to have a kid named Jonathan. The way they reincorporate that and bring it all back in matters in a way to me of the same way now. This weekend I just caught up on Action Comics, on Batman, and on Dark Knight. Or I'm sorry, Detective Comics. Detective Comics just reintroduced Tim Drake, brought him back from the dead.
Yep.
And it's also part of the Doomsday Clock, which is the Watchmen, crossover, which is Dr. Manhattan toying with the DC
explained to me
universe.
that
Yeah.
yesterday.
Well, if you haven't read Doomsday Clock, I'm not going to spoil much of it or anything, I won't spoil any of it, but maybe the last panel. And then I'm giving you the overarching plot. Doomsday Clock. Have you read it yet, dude?
need
Like it's awesome because you know what it is. Okay, so the idea here is that again, going back to New 52 when they reboot that universe all over the place. When we're at IGN, it's the first time DC Comics is doing day and date digital. So what was that?
6 or 7.
No.
2012.
Yeah, we were at New Building IGN, so it would have been like
at
2012.
least 11. Yeah, you're right.
Anyways, going all the way back to that, this has all been, that and Rebirth have all been influenced by Dr. Manhattan, we're assuming, but by Dr. Manhattan.
Got it.
That he's got bored in the Watchmen universe and popped over here because he's just a god at this point.
Yep.
And so Doomsday Clock is when they're finally answering these questions and explaining how this all happened, and really, because all the books have fucked around with it of like, Wally West coming back and being like, how do we forget about you? We lost 5 years. We did all this stuff. Somebody's messing with time. Superman knows that. Shit's been reblinked in his universe to make my Superman everyone's Superman. It's confusing. Doomsday Clock picks up, and I thought it was going to be, we pick up and it's more Batman, the Flash, the Button. They're trying to figure everything out. It's not. It is, hey, guess what? It's 1992 or 1994 in the Watchmen universe.
It's only a few years after the whole
Here's
Ozymandias
everything that's happened since the end of the first Watchmen book, and you're tossed back into the action, and they start laying, and it's like 98% all sequel, a direct sequel to Watchmen. That's really fascinating.
thing.
Of like,
All but the last 4 pages.
and the last 4 pages are Clark Kent going to prom, in the new 52 or whatever Rebirth, in the current DC timeline, his parents die in a car accident. It's him. It turns out having a nightmare about that happening. And him waking up screaming, and Lois in bed next to him, and he's flying, and she's like, Clark, wake up! Like, she's like, what is going on? You're screaming so loud, you're rattling the room or whatever. He's like, I'm having a nightmare. I was having a nightmare, and it was so real, and I could see the accident, blah blah blah. And she's like, well, and he's like, when's the last time you had a nightmare? And he's like, I don't think ever. And that's the end of the issue. And it's even that is Dr. Manhattan toying with what I love so much about my Superman, that the Kents didn't die there, and why it was a big deal when Jonathan does die in Brainiac. And like, there's like so many things there that are so fucking awesome. All this said, this is my argument all the time about the DC
I am
films.
So unbelievably lost about anything that you just talked
that's
about.
the problem with
And
continuity.
I know
I
what
was
you're
like, I should
talking
go back
about.
and watch the Watchmen movie again.
The takeaway from that is that this one instance of continuity is actually a pretty cool payoff. So far, I'm like, oh, I was not interested in your yet another universe-defining event, but you've now given me issue 1 of Doomsday Clock that's trying to explain fucking 7 years of comics, and you're actually doing a pretty cool job of like, oh, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Go.
No, continuity is weird for me because I think they're besides what you were talking about earlier is the movie good? I think, or is the book good? That is really what matters the most.
Sure.
But on the flip side of that, I am just such a huge fan of continuity that I feel like there's something about continuity where there is so much thought put into it that I really enjoy. And that's why things like Fast and Furious I am so into, because those movies are almost continuity first. You know, and it's like they figure, how can we make all this match up? Cool.
Yes.
Go from there.
Except they went back and like retconned some stuff in Fast and Furious, which is completely ridiculous.
That's exactly what I'm talking about.
Right.
That's the point, is the continuity of it. The point is, how can we make all this make sense in a stupid way?
Right, but to me,
why I
that's
think
an
the Saw
example of
movies-
it being not so great, a use of continuity, which is that they didn't plan. Like, the thing is, all of my criticisms of continuity can be disproven with what Marvel's doing, but they're the only ones that are really doing it right.
Oh, I disagree so much.
There aren't any other
Fast
major.
and Furious has better continuity than Marvel, I think. In the
that's
way of
hard.
how it treats the stuff. And I think Marvel
For Christ's sake, they brought Letty back from the dead.
Yeah,
So,
but that's the point.
Well,
though.
they have not had to retcon anything in the Marvel cinematic, with the exception of Spider-Man being the kid from Iron Man 2.
And
Other than that,
the Thanos glove, there has been stuff, and with this whole 8-year
All right,
ahead
yeah.
stuff. The problem is when you're 17 movies deep into a thing, there's going to be these problems.
You're gonna have
what I'm saying is
conflict.
they're doing an amazing job at it, but it's like those are also like trying to be good movies. Whereas I think Fast and Furious, I enjoy
Fast and Furious
it.
is more of a soap opera, where you're like,
That's what I'm saying. It's a soap
It's
opera.
having fun with
it's
that
like
continuity.
wrestling
It's
more
trying
than
to
it's
add as
like
much,
trying to be a good movie.
Yeah, and it's very transparent that they're adding to the continuity every single movie.
And exactly. And
It's kind
there's
of the fun.
thought being put into,
Sure.
how can we fit all this together? And that's why I enjoyed the Saw movies as well. They're not good movies. But the fact that they committed to the continuity so much that they're like, we're just going to keep adding this, it's soap opera like.
Yep.
And there's something super fun about that.
Yeah.
Comics get super crazy because you're right. With movies, you're only once a year, once every 2 years adding to the storyline. And that can get confusing because it draws out over such a long period of time. But for comics, when you do jump in at a good starting point and just fucking commit to it, there's nothing more rewarding as long as they stay good. But then when there is these moments where everything you just said, when you understand how that all fits and how that all means, that is bringing Letty back and Han, Jason Statham killing him and things like that, where it's just like, this is so stupid, but it makes sense.
Right.
And when that moment of making sense, you're like, fuck, this is awesome.
Well, the difference, right? What you were talking about, the story being the most important thing, right? Which is true. Obviously, we want great stories. The reason I love continuity and why, like, I love DC's continuity in the comic books, before all this, is the fact that you stay with these characters and these stories to see growth and to see change. And I like the idea of, I love the idea of Superman and Lois being together and when he revealed it being a big deal and them having a kid. I love the idea that, and this is one thing I don't agree with them doing, I loved it when Jason Todd was dead.
And stayed dead.
And Tim Drake was Robin and Nightwing was Nightwing. And I loved it when Bruce died, in quotes. And then Dick was like, I'll be Batman. And he goes out and he's Batman with Damian. Like, Batman and Robin, what a fucking amazing book that was, because it had been fucking 70 years of Bruce Wayne as Batman, and now they're like, you know what? No, we're committing to what would it be like if Dick Grayson was Batman. And you read that book, and that was great, and you knew Bruce would be back in some way, hook or crook.
But I guess that's the problem, right? Is like what's too much continuity, and this is I think becomes the issue for comics, is that at a certain point you almost get to a point where like I've seen all these stories happening before, right?
And that's when hopefully
with the reboots.
MCU, it's going to end. And then the reboot, that's when it goes in time, whatever. Hopefully, once the 22 that you're talking about with Avengers 4, and from everything that they're talking about, it does sound like that's going to be the end of the story.
Feige even said today, the quote was like, he was like, you're going to get something you've never seen in comic book movies for, a finale.
Which is great, because that's where all this continuity is going to pay off in this story, and then it can move on and do something different. And that's why, for me, starting with the Ultimate Marvel Universe, reading the comics, being able to be like, you don't need to know anything about any of the other
and
comics.
that's why Ultimate Spider-Man was amazing, because it was they kept the essence of who Peter Parker was, and you didn't need to know anything about it. They gave you the origin again,
modern takes on every character, and even if you had read the other ones, it was interesting because they were always slightly different and it was different. But my thing is, I've read every single Ultimate comic to ever come out until it ended, and I don't count the ones now that they've joined with the 616 universe. And I would say that if there's maybe 1,000 of them total, and it didn't get really bad until like the post-ultimatum, and then it was just like, this is just not choreography, fucking continuity, because it is totally just like, hey, we're just rebooting it, and this Gwen Stacy is not the Gwen Stacy we knew. They're acting totally different. That's continuity not working.
I like that continuity.
Good continuity is when it honestly looks, everything that happens looks back on the things that have happened before and are like, how can this make sense? It's not losing it and pretending that things didn't happen.
Exactly.
Right, and that was the problem with Ultimate, because Spider-Man died in Ultimatum, and then they had like a requiem about him, and then all of a sudden he was back.
Which was fucking horrible.
Yeah, it made
they committed
no sense
to him dying.
Yeah.
And he was dead.
Yeah.
Miles Morales was Spider-Man, and it was fucking beautiful.
Oh, no. I'm saying they killed the Peter Parker of that universe in Ultimatum.
Yeah.
And then he came back and died again before Miles took over the mantle.
No.
Yes.
No.
I'm pretty sure on
That's
that
not
one.
what happened.
After let's Google it.
No, Ultimatum
just keep
happened,
building
and then it
Gundam.
was Death of Spider-Man. And then
What am I gonna Google?
Miles Morales was Spider-Man for a while, and then they had the Requiem where they brought him back.
Wait, the Ultimate
We're over it.
Ultimate Spider-Man came back from the dead too?
Yeah.
Why? Miles was
the-
perfect.
In the very fucking end of the Ultimate series. Brian Michael Bendis' goodbye gift to Marvel.
That's dumb.
Bringing him back. Yeah.
No, but the thing to your point and to your point is you're both right. Is that when does continuity get too much, right? Like it is a huge problem, and that's why comics reboot all the time, is because they're trying to encourage new readers to come in and do this. To your point where you were, I forget what it was, but you were right. We kept talking over it.
Yeah.
But that's the struggle with comics and with continuity in general, is how do you make it appealing to jump in, and how do you make it not scary?
And it's easier when it has a smaller creative team behind it. Like WWE, if you just look at that company's continuity, yes, they have retconned the origin of Kane and The Undertaker 7 or 8 times, but it's only been a small group that has had final say over it, versus Marvel, where you have the X-Men office versus the Spider-Man office versus the Avengers office, and they're all making changes and taking out characters and stuff like that, that it doesn't matter how good your editorial team is, you're gonna see stuff slip through the cracks. And that's where continuity doesn't make sense, because it's like, oh, I thought this guy was on the East Coast, or I thought this guy was in space.
This is why for comics I've argued before that I'd like to see continuity blown up overall, but I don't mean you can't have continuity.
Right.
I mean there is no DC universe we're all worrying about. Every book's happening the same thing. There's Landis has the Landis verse, and he has a 12-issue story he wants to tell, and he tells it.
And then will get his own verse. And stuff
but
like that.
It can be though that, oh man, hey Max, what you did there was really awesome or whatever. I'd love to tell a Batman storyline in that universe. Is that cool? Yeah, and you set that up, and the audience is smart enough.
Was for a long time.
Yeah.
Until it wasn't.
Well,
and that's the biggest problem. And when it first launched, it was Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, and X-Men in the first couple of years. All of those comics, when you read them together, they all make sense. And when Spider-Man appears somewhere, it's like that makes sense time-wise with the Spider-Man universe. And it was so rewarding. And then they added more, like the Ultimates came and this and that. It was like, okay, cool, this still works. And it was around the Ultimates Volume 3 where it's just like,
it fell apart.
No one even knows what you're doing right now. Like, this doesn't make any sense at all.
Well, and then they also started getting into the multiverse too, like where the 616 Spider-Man met the Ultimate Spider-Man.
Way late, yeah.
And it's like, as soon as that stuff starts happening, continuity starts getting messed up.
It's so dumb.
Yeah.
It upsets me. Stupid Galactus shit. Fuck out here. Ruined everything.
You mean he's a swarm? Sorry, I had to.
Well, how do you feel as not having anyone connected to the comics though about continuity? I mean, how do you view continuity when you think of continuity?
I mean, I view it in best case scenario Marvel, worst case scenario. Sorry, yeah, best case scenario Marvel, worst case scenario Lucas. Right? Like I love what they're doing with the current films, but it's a slave. They're a slave to those horrible prequels, and it sucks. And that is a. I mean, I know we can never change them, and every time I bring it up, Tim just rolls his eyes like, dude, it's not going to fucking happen. But I'm like, why are we such a slave to continuity that we can't go back? All we need to really know is that Anakin Skywalker is fucking Vader. And everything else, let's just fucking remake him, man. Make it. That's such a cool story that could have been told better. And we're never going to get that era of Star Wars ever again unless we tell another side story somewhere else in the fucking universe that was happening at that point. Which, I mean, I'm also weird about like the time periods in Star Wars because it's who the fuck knows when they're all supposed to happen anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I love continuity. And I mean, obviously, one of my favorite series of all time is Harry Potter. And you're talking about 7 books, thousands of pages, building off of each other. There's books in the books. That's how nerdy we fucking get in Harry Potter verse, where there's like Fantastic Beasts and where to find them, which then got made into its own movie. And people are like, where does the book of Fantastic Beasts? And like, no. It was a textbook that they read in the story. Then she took that and she made it in real life. But it's really just it doesn't matter. But so I love all that because it's world building and I love world building and that's fantastic. But it does get, as you build something that big, it starts getting like hard to manage.
Yeah.
And unless you have someone really, really, really watching over that, like a Kathleen Kennedy or Kevin Feige, you're inevitably, shit's just going to start falling out of your hands and it's going to start being a mess.
Well, that was why they reset the Star Wars when it got acquired by Disney and everything like that, because they basically said there was too much out there, and we need to rein it in.
Sure.
And while I do agree that they won't reboot the prequel trilogy, I am also happy that they condensed down all the other stuff because there was just so much of it. And like I was always a Star Wars fan, and I read a few of the books, but I was never the guy who like could tell you exactly when and where Chewbacca died and who all Han and Leia's kids were and where they like it just got so convoluted that they had to rein that in.
Yeah, but we're almost getting there now. I mean, that's the thing is like with Star Wars canon, like a year or like 2 years ago, it was a nice, fresh, like, okay, cool, there's not too much.
But now all the comic books are canon too.
The comics are canon. They were so great. Started falling off a bit, getting a bit better now, but there's so many of them, plus the TV shows,
plus the
video games, plus the novels. It's like there's a lot of Star Wars shit out there that is canon, that has real effects on things happening. And it's like, ugh, man.
See, I mean, and that's my big question, right? And it's an unanswerable question because it's all subjective. But how much does all of the extended stuff that's canon really matter to the mainstream people, like audiences, right?
To the mainstream, it's the
hardcore people, right? Yeah. But like we are probably a minority of people that are going to support things like the Star Wars TV show or CW Flash and Arrow and all those things. Which, by the way, I think is a good example of when, hey, it's on TV. It doesn't have to be involved with the rest of the universe.
Crossover Night 2.
I don't know.
I was recording.
Oh, I didn't record those. Shit. But see, that's a prime example of like, that's fun. Let's take it that far, right? Just the shows. That's cool. I don't need to see Grant Gustin like in the Marvel or the DCEU. Is that what they call it?
Yes. It's annoying.
Their cinematic is
It's cool.
Once they
he's rocking on
reboot
TV.
it, then put him in it for sure when it's like happy and fun.
Although I think, I love Grant Gustin as Flash. It's his last name, right? I'm not saying it right. I always want to say Gustafson, but everyone's like, nope, those are too many syllables.
Adding a lot of letters.
Too many syllables, sir. So yeah, I mean, I love it. Obviously, I love it. I've loved Star Wars forever, but it sucks when it goes awry because there's no way to fix it, and that's I guess that point. Oh, I was on the mainstream point. Yeah, I don't think too many people. I don't think it matters as much as everyone thinks it matters, right? I don't think that so many people are going like, oh, the comics are for Star Wars. Like my wife, for instance, who likes Star Wars, but she's not gonna give a fuck when Chewbacca died. It doesn't matter. She just wants to go and see that and ask me a bunch of questions during it, and then not listen to the answers.
See, that's totally different. Like that's the thing is like if you would ask her like, hey, what are the main characters' names in Episode 7? She wouldn't know any of them.
No, but probably neither with my mom or my brother or anyone that just goes and Star Wars is on demand.
Well, so continuity doesn't mean anything.
It's like, oh, who's this shiny stormtrooper with a cape?
Like my brother's probably a perfect example. Right, he knows Han Solo, he knows Luke, he knows the main characters, and so he's able to follow it. But I bet if you called him right now, like, do you give a shit where?
Do your Maz Kanata impression, Matt.
Oh yeah,
That's what I was
he would be
calling
like.
it.
He would get something probably completely inappropriate. We'd have to definitely cut that out of the show.
Yeah, you
for
shouldn't
sure.
call him during that right now.
That's bad, that's bad.
So you know, I don't know. I mean, it's I want it. It's the same thing as always. I want it all, and I want it all to be great. And when it's not great, I want to complain about it, and I want to tell everyone we shouldn't have continuity. But then when it's perfect, I want to be like, this is a perfect example. We should always do this.
Your YouTube comments.
I'm a YouTube commenter IRL.
I truly believe that if Marvel keeps trying to go after Avengers 4 without some dramatic just change, like then that's when
They're going to
truly
get a lot of
lose it.
diminishing returns at a certain
Well,
point.
they
I mean, all
also-
the fucking actors are getting old.
Yeah. They
Yeah.
also have the ultimate Deus Ex Machina there with the Infinity Gauntlet because the 6 stones are the ultimate power to reset anything and have it still make sense.
Right.
And that's where you'll keep the comic fans happy, but it'll make sense enough for them. And then for somebody like your wife who may know who Spider-Man is, she's not going to care when it changes to a different actor.
But then the question becomes this: why do we need that, right? If you keep 22 movies, at a certain point, the next generation is going to be like, Iron Man, what? I'm not watching that fucking movie. That's the equivalent of you guys watching a fucking movie from the 70s, right? You're like, this is, I don't know, why aren't they moving the camera? Where are the special
Well, if
effects?
this thing resets though, then they don't really need to.
Yeah.
Sure, but at a certain point, couldn't you just also be like, hey guys, we're gonna just reset it?
Sure, but you know how Hollywood loves to walk away from
Yeah,
money.
that's true. I imagine that's what they're going to do, though.
Yeah.
Like, I can see worlds where after Avengers 4, they do reset the universe and, like, whatever, but then that's it. When they go forward, it's not referencing the other stuff.
Yeah, you're not seeing
That's
Robert
what
Downey
I'm saying.
Jr. is
Right?
not in
'Cause
pictures and
after a
shit.
certain point, like you figure this goes on for 2 more decades, which it's going to, right? Are people going to give a shit about any of those movies that were made in the 90s and
No,
early 2000s?
but it's no different than a 13-year-old right now isn't going to go watch 89 Batman. I mean, if they're
Sure, but that's not continuity, right?
well, but that's what I'm saying though is in their mind the continuity doesn't matter, whereas I'm just a comic book fan and I've loved Batman, so I'll watch every iteration of Batman. So I think I think it comes down to almost in the same way we were talking about people with tech. It's the people that do care and the people that don't care.
Yeah.
And I would say we definitely lean towards the former on that one.
Bring me up to speed. I can never remember. So it's Infinity War. That's Avengers 3.
Yes.
When is Avengers 4 coming?
A year
years
later
later,
or a year and a half later?
Are they
19.
shooting them at the same time kind of crap?
That
Or-
was the plan, yeah.
But they're not calling it Infinity War Part 2.
No.
No.
Now it's untitled.
the-
Avengers 4's
yeah,
working title.
It's
It
Avengers
was-
4.
I hear they were going to call it
War
the Wrath
Part
of Khan, but apparently that was taken.
And I have a feeling that there's probably going to be spoilers in the title. That's why they aren't saying anything.
Yeah.
yet.
Sure.
Because
I think they have said that
we got
actually.
Somebody did
Black
hint at
Friday, or not, sorry, Black Panther.
Right.
Yes.
In February, then Avengers.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then
Ant-Man and the Wasp,
Captain Marvel.
Captain Marvel, and then
excited about
and then Avengers 4.
Yeah. Is that it? Wow.
Those are the ones that have been formally announced as far as I can remember.
Yeah, that would bring it to 22. And then there's the end of the
and
universe.
and the second Spider-Man. But they
You're
haven't,
right.
they haven't said when
And
that time.
Guardians Volume 3,
Yes, but I
which
don't,
they said is after, which
yeah, that's where I
bothers
don't
me.
know where they fall. But they can just change it anytime anyway, and we don't have a choice.
That's a lot.
Tim, what's your topic?
shit, what was my topic? I thought we were going to cut it there.
Oh, we can cut it there if you want. Where you want to break? Where you want to break another topic in half? Break me off a
I
piece
don't
of
know. I
that
think it'll make
topic.
sense somewhere,
Oh.
though. Maybe the WWE one?
Okay, cool. Whatever you feel
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
big
let's
guy.
do
You
that.
you know you want to screw
Yeah,
the people out of their episode.
I had an
understand.
idea and then I lost it because then we got.
That was a good idea too. I forgot what it was.
Hold on, it was good.
It was something.
too.
I wanted to talk about it.
Hold on, what was Tim's
Everyone,
topic that
just
we're
chillax
not
out
going to
there.
use?
Hold on a sec.
You were
Because you were specifically the McMahon story.
yeah, I wanted to do the McMahon stuff.
That's why I write this shit down, dude. I cannot remember anymore.
YouTube.
Yes.
Ending.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
Definitely.
cool, yeah, let's
Definitely
talk
Talk about that. We got
Let's do
John
it.
here. Let's go.
So because we have you, so we talked about this a little bit, but I don't think a lot of people understand. You work at Studio 71,
Yes.
which used to be called The Collective.
We were
Collective Digital.
originally The Collective, became Collective Digital Studio. Now we are called Studio 71. Yes.
So, and that is an MCN,
So-
a multi-channel network.
Yep, media company with MCN aspect to it. A way to look at it is as the Kind of Funny guys are a part of Rooster Teeth is a subset of a company called Full Screen. So we help manage different creators on YouTube and other digital properties.
Selling merch, helping getting sponsorships,
Yep.
Right.
promotion,
Helping
just
to grow
general
the
stuff
channels,
like
things
that.
like that, yeah.
So we were with
a lot,
you guys.
A lot of those very early Audible ads you heard on Kind of Funny.
Yes. So we were with you for a long time, up
Yep.
until March 2016,
Yep.
when we joined up with Rooster Teeth and the Let's Play Network for all that stuff. So
Stabbed you
are
in the back.
very well.
no,
stabbed
no,
me
right in the
hard.
stomach.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, right from the front.
I
Gotcha.
called him.
Very well well versed in YouTube and all of that stuff, in digital media and all that. So I think you're a good person to have for this topic. My question is, do we think that YouTube will always be around? Because you see things like MySpace that fall. And when MySpace was happening, it felt like such a big deal. In the same way that you look at Facebook now and you're like, can Facebook fall? That sounds crazy.
I mean, I would have said no, not in this day and age, and then Vine just shuts down. You're like, oh, right.
But Vine's
not ubiquitous,
Vine was
and I know
never
that, and it doesn't really
as
use it in-
established,
yeah.
though.
Facebook did something that MySpace never did, which is get the old people.
Yep.
You know, it's like
did
even
get
old
the
people,
old people.
understand Facebook, still know it, and
They
still
love
use
that
it.
shit.
Everyone has Facebook, and it's just like that's just kind of a thing, right? YouTube's different too because it's a social media platform, but it also is the way people watch things.
It is.
It's
It is.
the
I mean,
video
I would have-
player. It's the +2 search engine in the world, right behind Google and all of that, right?
Sure.
And so I wonder. Because as we see things like the adpocalypse happen, and as we see things as creators leaving YouTube angry at them for this reason or that reason or whatever it is, right? Does any of that matter? Especially when we start to see how music videos have made such a big comeback on the platform.
Because of YouTube,
And totally because of YouTube, which means that has almost as much importance as record sales, because of the ads that run on these YouTube videos for musicians going up, with Gangnam Style being the first video to be 1 billion views.
Yeah.
But as you look at it now, 1 billion views is nothing.
Yeah, didn't something just cry like beat it?
Despacito's at like, can you check what Despacito's at, Kev? On YouTube? But See You Again from Fury 7 was the beat Gangnam Style to be the #1 YouTube video of all time. And then Despacito just recently outclassed that. And when you look at those numbers, there's more people using YouTube than ever before.
Yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is it's not, I'm going to go look up a tutorial video online. It's, I'm going to YouTube this.
Nearly 4.5 billion.
That's
views.
Fuck. I was like, oh, it's only 4 million, a billion. That's a billion.
Yeah, that's
what
billion.
it'd be. Mother bitch. That is a lot. That's like, I mean, how many lifetime views do you think we have on Kind of Funny? Just our Prime channel.
4
Not a
billion.
billion.
4 billion.
4 billion?
Kevin, look into
Awesome.
it.
That's wild.
There are two really important stats that I think the community is not realizing. That I think there's a bunch of nerds and number crunchers like me who do pay attention to stuff like this. I joined the YouTube industry in 2013. That was when we reconnected at VidCon. At that VidCon, they gave us a stat of every 1 minute of real time, 100 hours of content was being uploaded to the site. Now, granted, a lot of that content may be somebody's cat video that has 3 views and they just sent it to their aunt. And
Right, that's probably the majority of the
it doesn't have a title. It doesn't have a tag. Most people don't know what a tag is.
I remember when reviewing or playing around with Noby Boy on PS3. It was one of the first games I remember having. Oh, just put this clip on YouTube. And Brian Altano and I were joking around about it, and he called it, yeah, YouTube's just a trash planet. Everybody just fires their trash off to it.
So currently, that stat is updated to 400 hours of content uploaded every minute to that site.
Jesus Christ.
And you could argue, yes, there's definitely some trash in that number, but the fact that it is increased by that much is unreal.
I mean, I can't even imagine what the value of just the YouTube platform must be in the marketplace, right? Like, I think about what circumstances would have to come about for YouTube to go away,
To become obsolete.
And the first thing I think of is, okay, like a company gets sold to another company that horribly mismanages it, and then the platform just dies on the vine because it fails to iterate and evolve. But then I think, okay, who is the clear leader in technology when it comes to video streaming? YouTube. Right? Close second for me as far as just the 2 platforms that I use. Netflix is an amazing streaming platform.
Twitch.
I thought you were going to say Pornhub.
I mean, put it
Pornhub
bluntly,
never
Pornhub,
crashes,
they
though.
do some fucking amazing shit on Pornhub. Like, porn does push a lot of technological envelopes, but I think YouTube has them beat a little bit. Very far distant, 15th is Amazon Prime Video, who needs to up their fucking game. That's
Yeah.
just if anyone's watching.
They really do.
Up your fucking game. Because I love Amazon Prime. But so I just don't know because I don't, 73 million views, lifetime. Thanks, Kev.
Fuck you,
Gangnam Style.
Despacito.
Fuck you and your Gangnam ass. But no, I mean, I look at YouTube and I'm like, but I think at this point it is almost ubiquitous. It's almost like a public utility, like the internet, right?
Or
and that's
like,
what,
I was thinking about this in the shower this morning because I was like trying to prepare.
like
for this
Twitter is
topic.
kind of like that, right?
I wouldn't say Twitter. Google. Like
Google, yes. Google
people
can't go
use
away at this
Google
point.
as a verb. People
Right.
use YouTube as a verb.
Yeah.
And I wonder, is there anything that can change that? Twitter at any moment, I think, could go away. I do think that with the way that things advance, with smartphones and with the way the internet becomes more of a thing where people growing up need to know it.
Right.
It's like you, in the same way
have
that
to
we
be
used to
familiar
learn
with
how to
YouTube,
read
yeah.
and write, now you learn how to type. You know, it's like,
I mean, you're learning everything on YouTube, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the thing too. Is like you learn to read and write. The first thing you do is you Google it and you YouTube it to figure out how to do those things, right?
Yeah.
And that's. I mean, we've talked about this in terms of higher education, but like at this point in life as a human species, there are very few things like practical information you can't learn from watching YouTube. That's a very important thing. Having said that, like I think the adpocalypse thing is a perfect example, and all the stuff that's happening with net neutrality. It says like nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Right. Like I look at, we were talking earlier, and it's sad to say, but you look back, nobody knows when one era stops and the other one begins. Right. It's never that clear cut in real life. It is when it comes to wrestling maybe, but not necessarily when it comes to something as hulking as like internet video or the internet in general. But I do think the days of the Wild Wild West and the internet are just gone. Like you turn on, you look back and you're like, oh, YouTube, which used to be this free platform that was for creators, it's not really for creators anymore. Now we're having to kind of
I would
put some
argue the other
constraints
way.
on it.
Well, I would say the Wild Wild West of YouTube may be going away. There's still Wild West of all these other video platforms.
But I'm
and
just
all
saying, like
this.
YouTube maybe, but like Twitter's already starting. You're starting to see them crack down on things. Like there are starting to become more rules than I like when it comes to interacting with the world around me, right? It makes me nervous when someone's like, well, if you have the word sex in a title, we're going to just go ahead and demonetize as a blanket rule. Now, I know they'll hone in more on that, and knowing Google, they'll make it as good as humanly possible or mechanically possible, I guess, like computer possible. But it does scare me when I start hearing restriction.
yeah, but so the other way to look at that though is the fact that like it's even allowing you to monetize in the first place. Like back in 2009 up until 2014, maybe 15, you couldn't just get money on YouTube. Like, you had to
2009
be-
was when the partner program started.
They would serve ads though, so they got money, right?
Yes.
But you
Yeah.
didn't get a part of that money,
Yep.
correct?
Yeah, okay, but I mean, even now they get money from stuff.
Yeah.
even
Oh,
if
I'm
you're
saying,
demonetized,
clarification. They didn't start the partner program in conjunction with serving ads. Ads started a long time prior, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
But the thing
To
was,
pay for server
you had to
cost.
apply to be a partner and get like vetted and all this stuff.
Sure.
So now literally anyone can
Yeah.
make money on YouTube.
Now
So
it's like 10,000 views to apply at this point. Which
is nothing if
Yeah.
you're actually trying to.
If you're
to get
creating
things
actual
monetized
content,
for you
yeah.
to make money. So
But I would also probably say that led to them actually being profitable, which is, that was a smart play on their front. They weren't just being like, let's empower everyone. They were like, okay, we did a cost benefit analysis. If we cut people on the profits, it will incentivize them to make more views and actually grow their business on this platform, which is why it's so scary now that they're like, hey, we've got you hooked on the smack. Guess what? It's going to cost you more, right? Like we're going to limit your opportunity to make money on this platform via ads, which you've often said, and correctly so. If your whole business revolves around ad rev, it's probably
You're
not a stable
totally
business.
doing
it's
it
very
wrong.
dangerous.
It doesn't make sense,
because that
and
marketplace
you're just playing the
has a
game.
lot of ebb and flow, especially now.
I just have very little pity for YouTubers that are just like, this is my whole life. It's like, well, man, you shouldn't have made an entire career out of.
But you also know that part of it's kind of bullshit when
It's
it comes
entirely
to like the
bullshit.
big YouTubers that are making
it's
like
total just drama
60
where-
G's a month on just video ad rev, and they're like, oh my god, and you're like, you got other fucking forms of revenue.
There's something it's an unpopular opinion, but it's something that I think a lot of people need to hear. You are not entitled to be able to monetize your videos on YouTube.
Exactly.
It is an opportunity that they're giving you, and granted, there is a smaller second adpocalypse happening right now about certain things being demonetized. If you have content that they are deeming not appropriate for advertisers, in theory, they could say, well, if it's not advertiser appropriate, we don't want it on our site at all, because it's literally costing us money to serve it to people.
Right.
And that's something that a lot of people are forgetting, and where it's like, if all the advertisers pulled out of YouTube, we don't have anywhere to host this stuff at that point, and there's no discoverability platform.
Right.
Like that's a big factor that when people are freaking out that one of my 100 videos got demonetized, yeah, but you're still making money off the other 99, and they're not tearing down that 100.
And you're still garnering new audiences, and you're new
And then
subscribers, and you're keeping people coming back to your channel.
The other side of that, it being when Red vs. Blue episode 1 goes up and goes viral and costs
how much money did it cost
before
them?
it even
Yeah.
existed,
15 grand or some shit like
thousands
that,
of
yeah.
dollars. Like,
over like 48 hours.
yeah, and it
was
costs
obscene.
them the money.
Oh
and
no!
it's just like,
Make no mistake. we could not do what we do without YouTube. Like there is at no point is anyone at this table or any of us interested in going, let's start our own video server and figure out a video player and where to put these videos. I mean, maybe Kevin.
I was going to say that sounds like something Kevin would say.
But you know what I mean? Like
that,
it would if there were no barrier to entry, we would not. Everyone I know on YouTube would not really exist at this point, except for Rooster Teeth because they started on their own channel.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like we're all very lucky to have these tools. But it's the same debate, right? It's the same debate whenever you talk about people getting their Twitter accounts de-verified or kicked off Twitter or blocked on Twitter, and people are like, "This is freedom of speech." But it's like what you have to remember is this is a private company that has to watch their own ass too, right? And to your point, yes, YouTube is not, I mean, I say it's ubiquitous. I say it's a public service I hope it never goes away, but it's still a privately owned company, right? Or no?
Yeah.
Are they traded? No, they're traded. They're publicly
Google's
owned.
traded.
But it's not Ma Bell, right? It's not the water service. It's not something that they get to dictate what is good and bad for their company. And you have to. The question I guess becomes: are they doing it in an insidious way, or are they doing it for the overall growth and life of the platform? And I have to assume it's the latter, not the former.
I mean, they don't want the platform to go away.
No, of course not.
Because if it was insidious, then they would just say, okay, we're going to keep doing this, but we're going to up our server costs for ads to be 75% instead of 45%.
Right.
When they start nickel and diming people that way, that's where it seems selfish motives. But if they're allowing people to still post videos that are marked as demonetized, I'd say that they still want growth on the platform because they still want just traffic coming in general.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So do you think YouTube will be around forever?
I don't think anything's around forever. I mean, I think that's the thing, platforms are coming and going quicker, and I think you're just spotting the weaknesses in those platforms that are disappearing quickly. Eventually, something may happen, but is eventually 5 years, 10 years, 35 years? I mean, that we're not going to know. The second stat that I wanted to bring up, and this is why I don't think it's a 5 or a 10-year thing, when we were kids, if you asked a kid in school what they wanted to be when they grew up, it was cop, fireman, or astronaut were the top three when we were born in the 80s. Right now, it is either said flat out as YouTuber or vaguely as influencer. If you were to ask an 8-year-old right now, I mean, for a few years, my little cousin, she was trying to make YouTube videos. Now she's in high school and she has a boyfriend, so of course she doesn't care about YouTube for the time being.
Sure, for the time being.
Yeah.
Until they do a video that goes viral and they're like, cool, we'll do this.
But when she was 8 years old, that was what she wanted.
It's worth clarifying, guys.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
It's definitely worth clarifying.
It's definitely worth clarifying.
I think that being respectful and responsible is always of the utmost importance, ladies and gentlemen. That's true. I was thinking maybe they'd sit on the table and do something crazy like eat an Oreo. Something like that.
And review it.
Don't be hacks.
And review it. Mystery Oreo.
I mean, I agree with you saying where nothing lasts forever, because if you were to go back even further and be like, can you imagine a time where, TV doesn't exist?
You'd have told me in the 80s a TV one day is going to go away and it's not going to be the way you know it. I'd be like, you're out of your fucking
crazy.
mind. Let's watch
But if
Alf.
you said that now, it'd be like, oh man, I can see a future where maybe it's not that.
Well,
way.
I can see a future where broadcast television
That's what it
is
is.
not
Sorry.
around. TV in the way where we're always going to have higher production, higher value productions like we're getting with Netflix. But Netflix is definitely, I mean, it's not even the future. It's now.
Well, it's also what you consider it too, because when you would ask somebody years ago, what do you watch? Everybody would always assume, what TV shows do you watch? Now, if you ask my cousin's little brother, he'll list 3 things on YouTube and 1 thing on Netflix and then 1 or 2 things on broadcast TV.
Sure.
So it's now just blended together as content. And all broadcast TV is just the delivery method of it right now. And that has to change as tech improves.
Or they fight, they instill those new rules of net neutrality and Comcast goes on to rule the world again, which is annoying. And Verizon.
And it could still just keep dropping service when I'm playing PUBG.
Sure, blame your poor performance on that.
I absolutely will.
Okay. Whatever you got to do to tell yourself to sleep. Yeah. I can't imagine a world without YouTube. But I know they say that about everything probably at some point.
Yeah.
It'll be okay.
Yeah.
Don't worry, Tim. YouTube will be there forever.
I'm not worried. I feel good about it. I mean, what you're saying is 5-10 years, that's assured, I would say, unless aliens come and kill us all.
That's my other, when the EMP goes off.
Then we're
Then,
fucked.
then it's just over.
We got slightly bigger problems then. How do we turn a buck on YouTube?
Luckily, though, Nick.
Yeah.
If the EMP goes off and erases everything on
Where are we
YouTube, we'll still have cassette tapes of Death Angel.
We will.
If you didn't know, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show each and every week for sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny where you can get each and every episode early. If you don't want to watch them early, it's no big deal. The money you put there just helps us out a lot to run the business, and we'd love it. If you got no bucks to toss our way, though, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny where we put up each and every episode, topic by topic, day by day, until it goes live as one big video in MP3 the following Friday. John Carle, youtube.com/whiskey and waffles.
Yes.
What do you put up there?
Usually me drinking and playing video games.
That's what I like to hear.
One of our favorite episodes we ever recorded, we did a 4-player Let's Play of New Super Mario Wii U, and Nick explained the story of that game, and that alone is worth tuning in for that video.
Riveting story. Riveting story. You want to hear it?
Yeah.
You got to tune in.
John, thank you so much for coming by. And thanks
you guys
for
for
everything
having
you've
me.
ever done for us. You've done a lot for Kinda Funny, and we'll never be able to repay you for that.
Best friends.
Exactly.
Oh.
Until next time, it's been our pleasure to serve you.